What's up and welcome back to where it all began. That is right, KindaFunny's MCU in review, where we rank, recap, and review every single movie and TV show in the Marvel Studios, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Of course, I'm Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the producer / seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Good evening to you, Tim.
Thank you, Nick. Of course, we have the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
What's up, man?
What is up, indeed, and the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Great evening, Tim.
Thank you. Nick.
I one up to you.
The most. Mm-hmm.
That's
what we do here. It's what we do here. Make quality content, one-upping each other, left and
That's
right.
what I meant to say.
Go for it, Nick.
Chocolate-covered cashew that I have in my hand.
You got your nuts. You
finally got the nuts. It looks like a heart.
Well, this is a cashew. This is not almonds, but I'll take it.
It looks like rabbit poo-poo.
It's weird, right? It kind of tastes like it, too. Bubbles, too. That's why.
This is KindaFunny's in review, where each and every week we rank, review, and recap 2 different movie franchises. This time we're doing Eternals, but next week we are coming back with a Spider-Man 3 rewatch with the debut of a brand new intro that is hype as fuck. And I cannot wait for y'all to see that. That is next week. And then following that up, we got Ghostbusters 2016. The week after that, we got the Amazing Spider-Man and Ghostbusters Afterlife to close out Ghostbusters in review. And then the week after that is Thanksgiving week, where there will only be one in review, and that will be Amazing Spider-Man 2 rewatch, continuing all of that. Of course, you can get the show on youtube.com/KindaFunny or roosterteeth.com. If you wanted to get it as a podcast, just search your favorite podcast service for KindaFunny in review, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free, if you wanted to watch it live as it's being recorded, and if you wanted to write your reviews in haiku form, you got to go to patreon.com/KindaFunny, just like our Patreon producers, Molecule and the KindaFunny Destiny 2 PC clan have done. Today, we're brought to you by Arcane, Overland, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and Raycon, but I'll tell you all about that later. Let's get right into it. We're talking about Eternals, formerly known as The Eternals. They dropped the, just like Fast and Furious did at some point. Released November 5th, 2021, making it the 30th Marvel Studios project and the 26th film in the franchise. Truly incredible. A runtime of 2 hours and 37 minutes. It was directed by Chloe Zhao, a Chinese-born American filmmaker known primarily for her work on independent films. Her debut feature film, Songs My Brothers Taught Me, in 2015, premiered at the Sundance Film Festival to critical acclaim and earned a nomination for the Independent Spirit Award for Best First Feature. Her second feature film, The Rider, was critically acclaimed and received nominations for the Independent Spirit Award for Best Film and Best Director. And then she gained further success with last year's Nomadland, which attracted international recognition and won many awards, including the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, the People's Choice Award at the Toronto International Film Festival, and then both Best Picture and Best Director at the 2020 Academy Awards. She's the third Oscar winner to direct an MCU film after Joe Johnston for Captain America: The First Avenger and Taika Waititi for Thor Ragnarok in 2017. The music was done by Ramin Djawadi. Who do any of you know him?
Negative.
Oh, Game of Thrones.
Oh,
there's a lot of Game of Thrones connections in this movie. It's almost too many. It's almost too many.
But Ramin's known for Game of Thrones, for Westworld, and kind of a fun little thing that I didn't know until prepping for the show. He also did Iron Man 1. So going all the way back to the beginning of the MCU.
I like that Iron Man 1 soundtrack.
He originally popped into the whole scene being a kind of understudy of Hans Zimmer. And he worked with him on Pirates 1 soundtrack, which is really cool, and Batman Begins as well. Nick Scarpino.
I heard they used to call him Mini Hans.
Don't laugh. Let it sit.
Don't laugh.
He wasn't even trying to be creative.
He thought that was so funny that he raised his hand.
His own little mini Hans.
I'm going to the chat. I'm going to go to the live chat right now and see if they thought that was funny.
God, I
no one
fucking love you, Nick. This movie had a budget of $200 million, and since it literally just came out last night, we clearly don't have up-to-date box office numbers, but it is performing extremely well. It is at $9.5 million at the domestic box office alone, so that's just American numbers from just Thursday night previews. That marks the third best preview night of the entire pandemic, behind Black Widow and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, more than Shang-Chi, and ahead of the other pre-pandemic MCU November movies. So doing really well so far.
I think more of the news that surprised me is that I finally put it together that that's why the Westworld and Game of Thrones songs sound so similar. It's because it was the same composer. This whole time I just thought, like, man, that dude just ripped the other dude off. That sucks for that guy. Because they both have and then and they both have that same sort of trill. And now it makes a lot of sense.
Dude, he's so good, man. I love his work. And even in this movie, without getting too far into stuff, just talking about the score, it is an incredible score. I do think that it's not optimized for its use in the film itself. Like, I think that just listening to the songs themselves are better than they're actually utilized in the movie for the most part, which was kind of a letdown for me because I expected, hearing all these names and all this talent together, I was expecting a little bit more from the score in the movie. But overall, I've been listening to it a lot. And it's some damn good stuff. But enough about the score for now. Let's get into what we thought about this. Of course, since this is a brand new release, we're going to do our spoiler-free thoughts at the top, and then we'll make it very clear, get into full spoilers before getting into the plot and whatnot. Andy Cortez, I want to start with you. I didn't get your thoughts last night when we walked out of the theater. What'd you think?
This movie is a bit of missed potential for me. I think about halfway through the movie, I'm really digging it. Like, this is going to be a top tier MCU movie, which, again, how do you even put it and rank it? Because we love a lot of these movies anyway. But I was really legitimately digging the hell out of it when it comes to action, and even the humor hit more than it missed for me, which I was not expecting. And I think after a lot of the reviews are coming over the weekend, I came in with some pretty low expectations. But about halfway through the movie, I'm going, God damn, this is a really good movie. Like, I'm enjoying. Conceptually, this will be one of my favorite Marvel movies for sure. Just how they built out the world and the universe, the different characters are dealing with, the action sequences, I think are fucking really cool to watch. And it's something similar to Shang-Chi that we just haven't necessarily seen in an MCU movie before, where it's kind of like Power Rangers, right? Everybody's got their cool beam, 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 bam, beam, bam, boom. Everybody's doing all sorts of different things, and it's really visually interesting. But near the end, I think it just got really messy, and it threw a lot of elements at the audience that I don't think landed like they could have. And I think that it feels like some parts were rushed to kind of just maybe keep it under the budget. How do we explain this way? Who cares? Have this and that happen. So I think that there's a couple moments here at the end that I think were just really rushed, and it sucks because this movie I feel is like kind of a mid-tier movie for me now, when it could have been so much higher if they would have stuck the landing throughout.
I mean, Coelho.
I really, really liked it. I think that it's definitely not going to be for everyone. I really like the pacing of it, which is relatively slow, I think, for most of it. I agree with Andy with some aspects of the ending. Specifically, there's one character that's like, oh, okay, that's an interesting way to take what happens here at the end. But other than that, I was blown away at how much I enjoyed the comedy aspect of it. I thought Kumail and his valet were both excellent. Just really funny. Some of the powers are weird, where it's like, oh, that's very specific, and like Kumail's powers, I'm sure everyone's seen from the trailers where he does finger guns.
He's finger blasting.
Yeah. I mean, that's so.
That's what that means,
random.
right, Andy?
Yeah, that's exactly what that means.
But like I kind of went in with no expectations, hoping that it would introduce like a really vast world to me, like the Eternals. We haven't seen these characters. This story takes place over many millenniums. Yeah. And I think that it delivered what I was expecting or hoping for. So I think I'm really, really pleased with this. And yeah.
Nick Scarpino.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was just fine. I think that they were trying to do something very different with this. I think Chloe Zhao was trying to go for kind of a Marvel's version of an epic, and in that, I think she succeeded. But unfortunately, given only a couple hours, for me, it was very difficult to build all of those characters up in that time and have me care about them. And for the most part, I'd say that they succeeded. But I think the humor kind of it was hit or miss for me. It was a little bit out of place, especially since it was a very subdued tone for the most part. And I think it suffers from the same things a lot of the mid-tier Marvel movies suffer from, which is that they're just fighting these generic kind of squiggly lines for 2 hours straight. And by the time we get to any sort of actually compelling antagonist, the movie kind of is over. But having said that, I think this movie has some of the most beautiful visuals, some of the most striking moments out of any Marvel movies. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I think some of the stuff that they do in this was just very like stunningly well done. And in that regard, I think people should see this in theaters for sure. But I think overall, I really liked Gemma Chan. I really liked a lot of the cast members. I just think it's so difficult to utilize them all to their full potential in a movie that's this short when you've got 10 leads. And I think that, I mean, Kumail, I could watch Kumail Nanjiani do anything for 2 hours straight. I think he's just the most delightfully charismatic person ever. So I think he was able to bring some levity to it, but I think some of the other comedy moments just didn't work for me. But overall, I think it's fine. It's a fine film.
I wanted to point out really quick, Tim, that Nick mentioning what we hate when these MCU and DC movies give you the who gives a shit enemies that are just fodder. Like this was one of the first times I was like, wow, I actually like these enemies, and I like the choreography that's sort of being brought to how they're being taken on and how they are fighting the actual Eternals. I thought it was really cool and visually. Again, like we walked away from Shang-Chi. I walked away from Shang-Chi going, that's some of the coolest action I've ever seen in a Marvel movie, period. And I felt the same way here because it's just not what I'm used to seeing with this sort of these different power sets.
I'm gonna save my thoughts on the deviants themselves for spoiler stuff, but overall in terms of the movie, like I am very surprised at this movie in almost every way, positive and negative. It is not what I expected it was going to be, and I think that it was engaging the entire way through. I agree with Kevin that like I thought it was very well paced. I was never bored in this movie, and I think that they kind of used their runtime to the best of their abilities to do something that surprised me, which was make me really kind of involved with these characters' dynamics, not having a favorite, not having a least favorite, just kind of enjoying that I believed that they all had relationships with each other. And I think even over the course of now 30 movies, we know how Tony and Steve relate to each other. We don't necessarily know how Thor does with this guy or this guy or this guy. We can kind of assume, but like we don't get too many of those moments because there's so many side characters. I like that this movie, I really kind of have an understanding of how every single Eternal would interact with the other Eternals because they did a good job of showing us over the course of so much time and with the flashbacks. I think that every combination speak to each other in this
the
movie.
Archetypes, yeah.
And I'm like, it's kind of cool. We rarely get that. I think that they did a good job dealing with the characters themselves and kind of backing up the themes of, you know, kind of like understanding what it means to be human or not human and love and loyalty and things like that. Nick, what's up?
And I'll say, I mean, that was a lot of the stuff that I actually liked about the movie. So I think it's actually, you know, as a story and as a character like study, I thought it was a cool concept. And as we get into some of the spoiler free stuff for the plot, I actually liked a lot of those elements too. It's interesting to me because when we got the action sequences, I was like, it's fine. These are kind of generic. But when it got to more of a heightened level of tension because of some of the character dynamics later in the movie, I was like, this is where I'm actually really interested in this because you have a cast of phenomenal actors, and so of course they're going to give you something on screen. So in that regard, I think it was a success.
Yeah, and so it's funny though because leaving this, it is definitely the most divisive I think a Marvel movie has ever been, and I don't necessarily mean that in the sense of like people think it's good or bad or this or that. It's like kind of every element. Like we went with a very large group of people, like almost 15 people, and everyone I talked to didn't have the same thoughts. Like everyone was like, "Oh, I didn't like this person's acting," or "I loved this person's acting." Like all of it was kind of all over the place, and I think that that's kind of a cool thing that we don't normally get. Like it's usually it kind of can feel like committee
Cookie
appraisal
cutter type
of
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas with this, it's like, oh, cool. It kind of like hit people differently. And I was surprised by that. But for me personally, I kind of left it and I had the same feeling I did leaving Age of Ultron, where I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm happy I got that, but I don't have the same feelings I did leaving Avengers 1. I don't have the same feelings leaving Guardians even. And I was trying to put it into context in my mind of why I feel differently now, where for Age of Ultron, I was kind of bummed. Whereas this, I'm not bummed. I'm happy that I'm feeling this way. And it's because when Age of Ultron happened, there had been almost a year since we had an MCU movie, and the last one we got was Guardians 1. Such a surprise. And our next movie coming up after Age of Ultron was Ant-Man, which all of us were kind of like, all right, is this going to work? And all that right stuff's going bad. Like, we're kind of in a bad place. Whereas now we're coming off of Shang-Chi. This is just movie number 3 out of 4 this year, on top of the TV shows, on top of knowing we're about to get Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Thor 4, Black Panther 2. So this kind of being in this place, it is anything but a disappointment to me. I think that it being as different and me kind of leaving being like, I feel like this is going to affect the MCU in 10 years a lot more than it does right now. And I'm okay with that because they taught me to understand these movies this way, in this episodic kind of serial storytelling way. And I think that they really used their runtime well to tell an interesting story. I agree with Andy that like there's a lot of missed potential here. There's a lot of things that I'm like, you definitely didn't nail it. And you tried to be ambitious and the ambition showed, but why?
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
What does this mean? I don't really know.
And when I say missed potential, I mean the same missed potential I feel when I watch a lot of the Mark Webb Spider-Man movies, where I'm like, God damn, I love Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker. I love Emma.
Watson.
No, not Emma Watson.
No, Emma Stone.
Emma Stone. I love
Stone,
Emma
yeah,
Stone
sorry.
as Gwen Stacy.
I mean, we also love Emma Watson. Just to
Yeah,
be clear.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. There's just a lot of missed opportunities that they could have hit, and they could, if they executed better, this would have been. I think Eternals would have been a really damn fucking good movie that everybody's walking out and saying, "Go see this goddamn movie," and it missed a little bit too much for it to sort of hit those highs.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like this movie is the least Marvel feeling movie. I think that's kind of everyone kind of walked out. My first thought was, wow, this does not feel like a Marvel movie. This feels like a different studio made this movie. But I think that's probably the worst part of it and also the best part of it. And so I think that's to Tim's point. I think time will tell because I give them credit and I give the team kudos for stepping out of that Marvel mold and trying to make something a little bit different. And that's a risk, and I don't think it necessarily worked right now. But I think it's kind of important because we're already sort of acclimated to different ways of telling these Marvel stories with what Tim brought up, like the TV shows and stuff like that. So I think it's cool to try something different, especially with these properties that, like, I know I personally don't have a stake in the Eternals. I had no idea what they were, and in fact, it took me the longest time to remember what the movie was called. I kept wanting to call it that one that was like the TV show with the big dog, but I don't remember.
Inhumans.
Inhumans, yeah. I kept calling it Inhumans, and everyone's like, "Nah, that got canceled." So, I mean, I think it's very interesting. I think it's going to be very, very interesting, like Tim said, to look back on this and be like, was this a turning point at all?
Yeah, and one thing that to something you just said there about it being kind of an ensemble cast, like I did really dig the action. I thought that some of the power sets were very well shown off. I think that the deviants themselves, not so much. And I wish that I saw the Eternals kind of facing off against pretty much anything else besides just these CGI monsters. But in terms of like introducing us to these characters, their dynamics, and then their powers, I think that this is kind of the best we've ever seen being introduced to this. And I'm not just talking MCU, I'm talking about Justice League or the X-Men movies or all of this stuff. Like, I like how we saw them working as a team and in multiple action scenes, like they're together kind of like using their own skill sets in tandem with others. And that is something that we very rarely get in any of these movies to good effect. And Makari's speed is like, from the trailers, we talked about it and it was like, we're expecting a lot. They totally delivered for me. I love that they used it in every single way. There wasn't an ounce of slow-mo used. We just saw her being fast and saving people. We saw her being fast fighting people. We saw her being fast doing kind of both at the same time. I love that stuff. And there was a lot of characters that I didn't expect to like at all that I really, really liked. Like Druig comes to mind. Seeing him in the trailer, I was like, I know exactly what his story is going to be. And I was fucking wrong. I was extremely wrong. And I think that that's very cool. I was genuinely surprised as somebody that frame by frames these trailers and watches them hundreds of times on what this movie actually delivered on. So with that, let's move on into full spoiler territory starting now. Who wants to lead?
Put your hat on. Put your hat on. I'll kick it off.
Go for it.
I think this movie got infinitely more interesting to me when they sort of during kind of like going into the third act, when it started to be revealed that what was going on and like sort of the politics and the inner workings of the group. I thought that's where it started to get for me very interesting. Like I said before, them fighting the deviants the first time I was like cool, but even midway through that opening scene where we start in like 5000 BC or whatever it is, I was like, I don't want to see a lot of this. And unfortunately, we got a lot of it in the movie. It's like a lot of sequences that were very loud. And as creative as you could possibly be with them fighting like big spindly dogs, it wasn't until we started getting sort of that inkling that they had to fight Superman pretty much that I was like, this is what this movie should have done a lot earlier to me. It should have been them versus
Icarus.
Icarus, thank you. I was gonna say Ismahawk.
Like
which would have been
invincible
cool
type
too,
shit.
to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I thought, oh, this is really cool because they can't beat him and they have to figure it out. And the inner workings of them having to figure out how to work together to stop the Celestial. I was like, that's awesome. The visuals there are awesome. I wish we could have got to that a little bit earlier, but they spent so much time having to kind of teach us who these characters were. And going back and forth between this relationship between Gemma Chan and Richard Madden, which I didn't like because I like Rob Stark and I wanted them to get back to that. And I was like, I know
You're saying
that
it backwards, right? You want Jon
uh,
Snow.
Jon Snow, excuse me, not Rob Stark. Yeah, I like her relationship with Kit Harington. I was like, this is great. I love where we're
Never gonna
starting
work.
here.
It's not
And then we
gonna
don't
work.
get back to him the rest of the time. I was like, that's unfortunate because he could have also been the character that kind of explains a lot of the stuff that we were seeing in the backstories, right? I was like, oh, he's going to be along for the ride and we're not going to have to cut back and forth through all the time jumps, which I think they wanted to do, but it really made the movie kind of feel slow for me, going back and forth to these eras where I'm like I wanted in that regard it to be more of a traditional Marvel movie where I'm like, let's speed it up here, guys. We don't really need to go into this lavish backstory with all these characters. And I know why they wanted to do that. And kudos to them for trying. But for me, I was just it started to feel like a little bit of a slog there toward the middle of it. When we went back to South Dakota or North Dakota, I was like, all right, we're going through a lot of places. And then we get to like Brian Tyree Henry's place and him and his husband and the kid. I'm like, this is what this movie needs more of. It needs more of this fun dynamic of us seeing what's at stake here for these Eternals who, for the most part, you don't really worry so much about because they are called Eternals, which means they live forever and they're pretty
Yeah,
super
but
powered.
They do. The movie starts and one of them dies, right? So
Does.
I think
I
that
mean,
the stake.
Yeah, like 20, 30 minutes into it. That's fair. But
Sure,
Which
but that's
shocked me.
out of
I
two
was
and a half hours.
genuinely surprised by that. Like
Yeah.
her dying, I was like, didn't see that coming. Didn't
Yep.
see other deaths
bro,
coming.
they
And
can't
I
afford Selma
appreciated
Hayek
it.
twice.
Well,
I
I mean,
thought Angelina Jolie was going to
yeah.
die. I thought they were going to kill her off because
I
she's
thought so
great.
too. I actually really liked.
She was amazing.
I really liked how they all had their individual problems that they were sorting out. Like Angelina Jolie in Gilgamesh, like she had like some form of Alzheimer's, right? And he was her caretaker, and it was like
Mad weary.
Mad Weary, I think is what they
Mad
called
weary.
it. Yeah.
Like a mad weary dog.
Yeah.
But like it was an interesting take
thought
on
of it,
like
too, you know,
the
I'm
mind
so
having
bad at it.
so much information to retain.
Well, and
that
it played
like,
into the fact
collapses.
that it played into the
Yes,
fact that
that
they
they
had
get
had their
reset.
memory rewritten. So it's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
hard
yeah.
drive started to fail after a while, which is kind
Right.
of cool.
I
And then
love.
we also have two of them having a relationship and keeping a secret from it, and that causing the relationship to decay and fall apart. And then we have Sprite. Sprite, I think, was the most interesting. Like the moments that we had with her, I think were really, really interesting because it's just what a fucked up situation to be a child, to stuck in a child's body the entire time.
But it was weird though because that was one of the things that was kind of off for me because they kind of treated Sprite like a child to a degree, and I was like, you wouldn't do that after 5,000 years.
Yeah, I think
like
that
this person's just a small adult at this point.
I mean, I think that they very much in their mind that's the case, but like as they would like pick on her that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's one of those things. I mean, first off, shout out to Kirsten Dunst, who laid down the archetype for this character of Chorus Tim in Interview with a Vampire, where
my
she
God,
was
so
forever a child vampire, which is always a fascinating thing.
Where she
You're
cuts
like,
her
you
hair.
can live forever, but you're going to be looked at and treated like as a child forever. Yeah, that stuff was all that stuff was fairly interesting, but I just felt like it was a lot. It was just a lot to accomplish in a 2-hour time period, and I honestly think that Chloe Zhao did the best job possible for something that dense. I think it was expertly done. It just for me started to drag a little bit, and I'm just more used to Marvel movies being a little bit more quippy and a little bit more action oriented. I wanted more Brian Tyree or Henry. God,
Brian Tyree Henry.
Thank you. I'm getting it wrong every time. I want Fastos. I want more Kumail. I want more of that stuff. And to be fair, I like.
You want more MCU? Is what
I
you're
want more
saying.
MCU. I liked, but
the
see,
theater was
here's the thing.
quiet until Kumail, and then all of a sudden it was an MCU movie.
Right. And I think, and you know, I think this is no disrespect to Richard Madden. I just didn't find his character particularly interesting. And I think the reason why, I think that was done by design. I think we were going to kind of foreshadow the heel turn a little bit. And so I think he was cold. But I just was like, I don't think he and Gemma Chan had good chemistry, especially since that very first scene where she walks into the classroom with Kit Harington. Man, I was like, I'm feeling sparks right now. I turned to Joey, and Joey's
why
like,
are these the
"Yes."
hottest teachers of all time?
I was like, oh my God. Yeah. I was like, these kids are just witnessing something phenomenal happen here.
Nick, and by the way, did you notice, like, from the nose up, a lot of similarities between.
Well, that was the
and
weird thing too, Andy, because I kept thinking, like, I was like, is Andy behind me or is he in front of me on screen?
I saw it because you had your popcorn like covering half of the screen.
Well,
and
no,
like,
what happened was I ditched out. You know the seats? I ditched out of the seat, and a little barrier just cut off half the screen for me, and I was like, Andy's got one of these days. He's gonna come clean.
It was Kit Harington, Nick. No,
Go for it, Andy.
I was gonna say, talking about the characters, I think Druig, you mentioning earlier, Tim, was a really cool character, and I loved seeing that arc, and I loved seeing the way everything played out. I never felt like it was a slog. I love that sort of quiet, introspective sort of filmmaking where we're getting lines of dialogue that don't always have to be quips. And I'm the quip guy. Thor Ragnarok's like my favorite MCU movie, and I really dug all of these moments with these characters where we are getting to know them and hearing their back and forths. The flashbacks I had no problem with. I'm like, this is cool as shit, and I'm glad that we're going back to different periods and seeing how they're dealing with it, and seeing how they're dealing with the evolution of mankind, and how suddenly they are no longer just people holding out a job. They are human with morality and feelings of what we should we intervene, or should we let everybody here at Tenochtitlan get fucking destroyed? You know, like, this is genocide. And it's like, I love all those sequences with the Eternals. So Druig definitely was one of my favorites, and I liked a lot of our sort of quieter moments with our characters. And of course, yeah, Kumail just absolutely knocked it out of the park.
See, what I really like, what I really like about all the characters in Kumail in specifics, where I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me here, but I think that the movie did a really good job of having each character kind of have an arc, and there is this overall theme of what it means to be human, and where the Eternals kind of fit into that, and we see it like a little bit on the head, like nail on the head direct in a lot of ways. But I like how they all kind of dealt with love, loyalty, and morality differently, and we see that with Kumail's loyalty to Icarus, right? And him kind of being gone from the final fight, I kind of like I feel like people are saying it's a plot hole, but I kind of see it more as like they're a united front, but they are all like kind of like coming at from a different place. And like Kumail has a human side to him now. He's been living as a human prolifically for generations, right?
Yeah.
And like I like that is
Several humans.
completely different than some of the other ones that kind of like hit out on a ranch, or some other ones that like Sprite that wanted to be more forward but weren't allowed to. Like I like that we got a lot of different kind of takes on it all, and the dynamics between them were complicated. It's not just like, oh, there's the 10 Eternals and 5 of them lean good and 5 of them lean bad. All of them are complicated in a bunch of ways that I thought was cool. And the biggest letdown for me, real quick, like just because I want to make this point about the deviants, is there was a turning point where it's like, oh, the deviants are sucking their powers, killing them, but then also they're gaining consciousness. And there's a moment in the movie where they gain consciousness, and it's like, holy shit, they're not the bad guys. Are you the bad guys? Is it morally gray everywhere? That's exactly what it is. Holy shit, this is really cool and interesting. And Marvel's at its best when we get these kind of bad guys that are sympathetic, and they just drop the ball and throw that all out the window. And they literally have these moments of, oh, the deviants are sentient. They're not just these animals, and the whole predator, prey, all this stuff. Like, you built up to this perfectly, but then they literally just end the movie with slaughtering these things. And it's like,
especially when
that's the potential that I thought was lost.
Just set up that one of the characters is gone, and they need 6 characters to do what do they call it? The mind meld or the fucking the
Uni-mind.
brainstorm. The brainstorm is what
Brainstorm.
someone calls it, and I love it. And I was thinking, oh my God, what a great way where they have to recruit this thing that was their enemy, who was misunderstood, and make peace with it and get him to be a part of that brain to kill this Titan. Because ultimately, they're after the same thing. They just want to survive. They don't want to be destroyed. They don't want to be used anymore by these Celestials. And then you just have this kind of throwaway scene with him and Angelina Jolie's character, who I thought was going to have a much bigger role in the climax, and they just have this side fight over there. But I'll disagree with you in one regard, is that I understand why they did it. I was disappointed that in my opinion, the most fun character in the whole thing, Kumail, was just absent for the climax of the movie. That felt weird. It felt weird to have him not come back in and save the day. Not that you have to do that, but I missed Kumail. I was like, this would be funny. This needed a little bit of quips to like break the tension so it could get heightened again, and they just didn't have that.
One of the most like interesting dynamics that we see that is very minor, but it's between Kumail and Sprite, like where they're friends. Like the first time they get back together, she kind of gets mad at him. She's like, "Man, it sucks that you like ditched me 100 some odd years ago." And it's so interesting that his response is essentially like, "Yeah, I got really tired of moving every 5 years. People notice that like kids don't grow, right?
You don't age, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, so you imagine he can stay longer
Right.
with around. What I was gonna say is it's interesting the way that their paths diverged, where he suddenly becomes famous and lives this life with that is the family dynasty, right?
The
Where it's
Hollywood
like,
sort of lifestyle, yeah.
my great Bollywood success, and she continues to live this like moving every 5-year thing, and it's just like the dynamics of that are interesting and really cool. I like it a lot.
One of the things that kind of popped for me for a second, and it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but I did wonder. I'm like, we aren't in the DC universe. Well, depending on what references they're going to make, which we'll get into in a plot, which is weird. We're in the Marvel universe where secret identities are half and half here, right? For the most part, everyone knows who the Avengers are, and like Thor is just Thor. Thor doesn't have a secret identity. So why don't the Eternals just be like, we're the Eternals. We're here, right? Why wouldn't you just live your life? After 5,000 years, you'd think someone would be like, we can just be who we are. Thor, the god of thunder, is here, and he's a celebrity. We can just be that person.
Well, I think that they were still doing their job until this movie happens. They don't. They think they're here serving a purpose, right?
I thought they had killed the last of the. I thought they killed the last of the deviants, and they were just waiting to go home.
They were waiting to be like relieved. So
why not just be like? Well, I mean, let's put it this way.
Well, that was also 500 years ago.
I guess the difference is 500 years ago, they didn't give a shit that people knew they were gods. They were revered as gods. So at what point did they feel, hey, we have to start hiding from the public? Why? Why would that happen? When they just literally ascended from the sky on this giant monolithic obelisk thing, and they were like, view us as gods, and they don't care about hiding their power from anyone. Why would that be different from them in 5,000 years ago as opposed to now?
I do think that like it was just Babylonian times that they were like floating around and shit. Like with the Mayans, they were coming in and saving the day and then leaving.
But my point is like that was when that's before any of the Marvel stuff happened. Now we've got Iron Man, Spider-Man, Vision, all these people. Why would they feel in any way, shape, or form that they need to hide from the general public?
Because then people would want them to help. And they're not supposed to change any of our history.
No, I buy that. Okay, I buy that.
Yeah.
Tim, were you going to say something?
I was about to say that mixed with I think this movie really goes out of its way to let it be known that like they are assisting with technology because they're essentially breeding humans to feed the Celestials. Yeah. So it's like I think that they didn't know that. I know, but like I think that like when it comes to technology, when they show the scenes of them making the plow instead of the steam engine that early, it's like they were realizing like, oh shit. I think they had a come to Jesus moment where they're like, we're already too involved. Like, we need to back off. And I think that's why they went back kind of into hiding as opposed to flipping the other way and being like, we can expose ourselves. Sorry.
I understand what you meant. I guess I buy that.
But I do think at the end, their plan was to just be like, we're the Eternals and this is who we are. But
now that they're broken from the metaphorical yoke from the Celestials, they can do whatever they want. But
but then what was his name? Azarath comes and scoops them up, and then
something.
And the other three are
Arishem.
Arishem, you're right.
Yeah.
It's a cool name.
A lot of
One
cool
thing that I
names
was
in
a
this.
little let down with is I really like Gemma Chan. I really liked Cersei like as a character, and I thought her chemistry with Kit was great. But I do think that her kind of being the leader character and like if there was a lead in this movie, it would be her. There's not. It definitely is the entire group, but like
I would
she
say
is the
she's probably
one.
the lead,
this
yeah.
she's the leader.
We spend the most amount of time with
Yeah,
her.
I think she's the lead of the.
and
Go
I
ahead.
I just feel like her being kind of the heart of the movie in the sense of like I think the theme of love and her loving humans and stuff is like kind of like a big central plot to this.
Mhm.
And besides her legitimately being in love with Jon Snow, I didn't really get the vibe of she loves humanity. And I think that
did say
they
it a lot.
say it
Yeah.
more than they actually showed
Yeah.
her, Cersei's
Yeah.
character, loving humans and seeing the beautiful things
Yeah.
humans can do.
That was
They showed her.
unfortunate.
Yeah, they showed her dance like once with
Yeah,
with people in the
that's
group.
that's the thing is like I
That's what
think
they're trying to get across.
It's the missed opportunity of like, oh, you were so close to this being something truly special, but like you told us instead of showing us, and like
Yeah.
I think they showed us a lot of really cool stuff. So it's like it's weird where it's none of us are saying anything bad about
No.
this.
I'm curious to see where this ranks too when we all eventually rank it.
Yeah, me
but one of
too.
the things, sorry, Kev, one of the things that I was going to say, I do love her power in this. I do love that everyone else has these destructive powers, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but she does not have the power to destroy stuff. Everything she does, she just kind of like turns to like rose. I mean, I guess she can destroy stuff depending on how you do it, but she doesn't have lasers and like what you would think is traditional
Transmogrify.
weapons. She chooses to make everything like into something more beautiful or like different life. And like, yeah, I just thought it was super cool. I'm like, what a great character to have.
There are some that like Sprite makes illusions, right? And
So cool.
and Druid can like mind control people.
Yeah,
So,
those are things that felt kind of almost ominous to a degree. Like illusions are like subterfuge, and then him controlling people's minds has very negative connotations.
Yeah, I can see how
Specifically toward the
both
end.
can be taken very offensively, but I do think that those three powers all can be used for like creating stuff or defending.
Sure. But I love that visual, and obviously they kind of spoiled it in the trailers, which is unfortunate. But the bus flipping over and she turns into
So
rose
cool.
petals. I was like, that's
I was
such a
very
cool...
worried about the man though.
Me too,
Oh, yeah.
Kevin.
Me too. I looked at G. I'm like, there was a man on that bus.
But yeah, I liked that, and I love how that builds into the end, right? I like that she had to be the one to do it. I thought her character
Yeah.
was interesting for sure.
It was definitely interesting.
But I'm
I
with you,
enjoyed.
Tim.
I enjoy the dynamics that she had with not Kit Harington.
Harrington.
Robert.
Richard
Robert,
Madden.
yeah,
Richard Madden. Richard
Rob
Madden.
Stark.
Icarus. I'm gonna
older.
call him Icarus.
Yeah.
I like the relationship. I like that like they clearly still wanted to like have something, and there was something that was stopping it, and then we find out it's that he knows, and he knows how much she cares, and he thinks that it would throw everything off. I do think that like the weakest point of this movie is like the conclusion of like at the very end where he's just kind of like, I love you, and that's I can't kill you, and then he is like, I'm gonna fly into the fucking sun, and it's like, really?
It's way too on like
Joey
on the
laughed.
nose
way
there.
too-
When that
Yeah.
happened, Joey legitimately laughed. He was like, and I was like,
And-
hey, I thought it was good symbolism.
And
He
like,
flew
now
into
here's the
sun.
thing. Here's
But
the
it's
thing
not
about
symbolism.
that. Like,
That's just
it-
straight up doing
Very on the nose,
thing.
yeah.
it has to happen. It has to happen. But you got to know that when they're doing that, they're like, this isn't great. Like,
Yeah, but
this,
I really
this isn't the best solution, and it's kind of cheesy, and we should be above doing something like this. But it kind of has to be the thing that happens there.
I just really wish that instead they had like he had paused for a moment thinking about it, and that at that moment she had realized that to save all the people that all of Earth that she cares about so much, she has to turn him into something else, and like that he accepts that like that'll happen, you know, like to kill him essentially.
The movie really kind of lost me in the part that Tim mentions that he likes a lot, which when the deviants gain consciousness.
I didn't say I like a
And-
lot.
It's not that
It
I
was
don't
an
like.
opportunity. That was
Yeah, it's definitely
taken very
a missed
nicely.
opportunity for sure. And I just think that conceptually it throws this at the audience, and it doesn't really do anything with it except for
totally dropped the ball.
having a sequence at the end, and the motherfucker pops up at the end in the final fight, and you're like, what do you? And even they had the same reaction, like, what are you doing here? Like, and as the viewer, I'm like, what are you
What's
doing?
your deal?
What's the goal here, right?
Yeah,
Like,
what are
who
you
are you
trying
trying to kill?
to accomplish here.
Yeah, and I love the idea of it, Tim. I love the idea that these animals are like, look, dude, we're fucking both pawns to to this shit. Like, you're just like us, and it's such a cool idea. and just such a squandered opportunity because I thought they could have done so much more with it. And we have the sequence with Angelina Jolie in the cave, or it's like about to steal her power, and she kills it, and that's supposed to be really dope, but I don't know, it just kind of wasn't. I don't know what was happening there.
Well, I'll tell you why, because that fight, when you juxtapose that with a Titan's hand coming out of the fucking Earth's core, I'm like, I care more about that than I do the second plane of action that's happening.
But
not Titan, excuse me, Celestial's hand.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like those words could be used interchangeable. But I do feel like what wasted potential was setting that all up. Because I did not care about the deviants, but when they introduced this as a factor of like, oh, it's getting smarter. Oh, it's like talking about its collective past and how they've all been murdered. It's like, I kind of want to hear what he's saying. Yeah. And then for him to just get sliced into 5 or 6 pieces.
It didn't feel validating, right?
Yeah, no, not at all. And it's too bad that they solely were like, this is a red herring, instead of doing something more with that.
I wish it could have built into the end a little bit better. But I will say that the stuff where it started getting really interesting for me is when they started telling you what was going on. I love the visuals of the Celestial. I talked to Tim earlier today, and I was like, the most striking thing I've ever seen in any MCU movie is the part where Selma Hayek, the little ball comes out of her chest, and she goes to communicate with the Celestial for the first time, and she is the size of an ant, and all you can barely see is like a little bit of the Celestial's eyes. That image, I was like, that is why they made this movie, and that is super cool. And that, for any other reason, is why everyone should see it on the biggest screen possible, because it was so cool. I love that they're impregnating planets with future Celestials, and then I like the concept of the conflict of being like, well, these Celestial, even though I don't think
that was a cool ass sci-fi story, man.
It was a cool story, but to Tim's earlier point about how like them loving Earth didn't quite come through, I never quite cared about that conflict between Rob Stark and the rest of them, where he was like, wait, if we let this thing be born, it'll cause the life of other billions, versus, but you're killing billions to make billions. That, to me, I was like, this is not quite hitting the way it should.
Same
Even
here,
though it's a really cool concept, but I'm just like, I don't know. If for some reason I'm like, I just don't care about either of these things. Like,
I felt the same way, because it's like you're pitting people that exist against potential things that don't exist yet.
Right.
And I just don't like it's. I guess when
it kind of seemed like it was like 90-10, right? Like I kind of see Rob Stark's 10%, but like the other 90%, I'm like, there's like 6 billion people on this planet that we're gonna kill.
You got to put yourself in their mindset that is their job. Their job is to have galaxies and worlds proliferate, and then eventually give birth to these newer Eternals or newer Celestials. But like the fact that they'd be like, if we stop this, we're gonna stop other planets full of people that can grow, and it's like, you're not showing me the conflict there enough. You're not making me feel like, wow, this is a really tough choice right now.
It's also kind of go ahead, Kev.
I was gonna say the biggest issue there is like, I don't understand how the Celestials create suns, but are all of the suns impregnated, or some of the suns impregnated? Or the Earth? Well, I guess the suns aren't impregnated.
They create suns to create life on the other planets,
so that they can impregnate the planets
to make more Celestials. That's how they reproduce. But the idea, I think, that I got, and tell me if I'm wrong, Tim, is that the Celestials they're the only things that can make stars, and the stars are what other planets what allows other planets to spur life. And then they choose some of those planets and they impregnate the planets to make more Celestials.
That's what I read from it. That's what I read from it. And like the thing is with this is it's complicated because like a lot of people doing breakdowns versus the comics versus this, and like in traditional MCU fashion, like things are different. It is kind of a greatest hits mixed with like modern storytelling that is most of the time the right call. So yeah, I think you're right, Nick, that is what they were trying to get across in this one. I want to get to the plot, but before we get to the plot real quick, the last thing's spoiler conversation that I want to talk about is obviously the post-credit scenes. That is what a lot of people are. I am sure that people are going to be shocked that we just talked for 40 minutes without even bringing up the post-credit scenes, because every other conversation like this is going to talk about them before they talk about the fucking movie. And I think that that's a testament to these 4 guys right here. We have shit to say, my friend. But here we are, post-credit scenes.
Harry style fanboys.
For the post-credit scene, like, hey, we made what's his name? Thanos We made him a Celestial. Look at that. There you go.
I mean,
And
did
then
they?
he Yeah,
No, they didn't.
yeah. The
Oh, here we
Star
go again.
Not
Fox.
at all.
Star Fox
You're
is all
saying an
like
Eternal.
an Eternal. You're right. I meant an Eternal. Or Eternal. An
Oh.
Eternal. There we
'Cause
go.
he's Star Fox is his brother, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Eros
cool. Which is
his
one
real
of
name.
one of the things that
Eternal.
I was like, I hope they do that.
Yeah. Not celestial, not deviant.
You're right. You're right. I misspoke.
Yeah. Okay. Just
But
just
again,
being clear.
but in the comics, deviant is a very different thing, where they are Eternals that are born with like a genetic mutation.
A deviant gene, yes.
Yeah, the deviant
in the
gene,
comics, and this they went out of their way to not say that about
Yep.
Thanos, which is interesting. And I think that in the MCU, he is not a deviant. So that's like so far at least.
How about that Patton Oswalt CGI? Oh my god.
that was
That's
rough.
a lot. That's a lot.
That was rough. I was like, and I hear that a hero can save us. I was like, wow, Spider-Man's climbing up that wall real hard in
It
Spider-Man 1.
was so bad. That
Not
was
good.
like a comically bad CGI character that introduced Harry Styles in that sequence, and I felt like all of it
Dude.
was awful in that sequence only because of the way it was introduced. It felt like a joke. It was really bad.
I don't know really who Harry Styles is, other than I know he was a boy band with really good hair. So when he showed up, I was like, I don't get it. It was like a big reveal moment, and I was like, I don't get it. And I was like, oh, he's gonna be like Adam Warlock or another character that I'm supposed to know. He's like, I'm Star Fox, and I was like, do I ask him if this is the video game Star Fox or what's going on? I was so confused, and then Joey was like, that's Harry Styles, and I was like, oh, that's why this is supposed to be a hype moment. I did not understand the hype at all.
That's the thing that somebody from Variety spoiled in the premiere week, Nick.
Yeah.
And
Right.
everybody was pissed off, like, why would you do this on such a public platform? Yeah.
Interesting moment. What was the mid-credit scene?
Well, so just
Oh,
sticking
that
with
was Kit Harington with the Arthur.
Yeah, sticking on the other one for real quick. I'm just really happy that we're at a point again with the MCU where I watch post-credit scenes and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know exactly what this is leading into.
Yeah.
And like, it's been a long time since that's been the case. Like, there were early days where like things would happen and be like, huh, I wonder where we're going to see that again.
Oh,
But
that's
then
Thor.
for a while, it hit a point where it's like, okay, cool. This is clearly just for this movie. This is clearly just for this. I liked it the last couple movies. It's like, what are they doing with this? And one of my friends that that watched the movie with us, Danny, he was like, so are these things related? Are the bracelets in this movie related to the 10 rings at all? And I was like, fuck, that's actually a really good
Yeah.
point that like I didn't think about, because in the post credits of the of Shang-Chi, they were like looking at it like, yeah, it's calling out to someone. Are they calling out to these Eternals? Like, are these things connected? I just
got
love
goosebumps.
that there's theories, you know, it's like there's questions, and like it's not like you can just read a comic and answer things. Like they're building kind of this new lore based on what they have. It is interesting seeing Pip the Troll, where like I'm very unfamiliar with him as a character, but I was talking to Nick about this last night. Like he is the first thing you see when you read the Infinity Gauntlet comic that Infinity War is based off. Like he is kind of like the beginning moments of it, because he's kind of Adam Warlock's like boy in a lot of ways, but he's also connected to Star Fox. So it's interesting. We know that Adam Warlock's about to be in Guardians 3. He just got cast. So like things are kind of starting to brew in a way that is really interesting there. But yeah, I don't know, because where the fuck are we going to see Harry Styles again? Like, and the remaining Eternals on this ship. Like, I think it's really interesting where they left this, where the scene itself, not necessarily the most hype exciting thing for people like us, because we don't care about Harry Styles in the way that I am sure millions of people out there are going to lose their shit seeing that scene.
Yeah.
But I
Nick,
thought it was kind of cool.
Nick, he was in Dunkirk.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He was good in Dunkirk, actually.
Yeah.
Not
Oh, man.
1917. Damn it.
That
All
kid
right,
can
that
do
makes
it
sense.
all. Snowbike Mike joined this about a half hour ago, and I'm curious to see what he wanted to say. Mike, if you're here,
He hasn't
what's
seen the
going
movie.
on?
Harry fucking Styles, y'all. It's massive.
Massive.
I love it.
It's
I love it.
massive. Thanks,
The
Mike.
the post credit sequence, however, is the one that last night I think we all have the same question: whose voice was that? And clearly,
Let me
and
tell you.
also,
Let me tell you, because I have a fun fact here, Andy.
well, I wanted to say before that, the whole time it's going, the whole time the movie's going, we get to the end, I go, I thought Jon Snow was the Black Knight guy. I thought that was announced that he was going to be the Black Knight in this movie. And he didn't do a whole lot of anything. And then the ending sequences kind of go, okay, I see what they're doing.
Dude, he wore the shit out of that scarf, though, when he was looking for
Fuck
Jim
yeah, he
Chan. He was
did.
like, where'd she
Shit
go?
out
Where'd
of
she
that,
go?
yeah.
Got a
Yeah,
scarf
what a
on.
beautiful
Yeah.
couple.
So they built him up, obviously, and they built up his uncle as a character who in the comics is Nathan Garrett, who's one of the ancestors of the Knight of the Round Table. The Ebony Blade has this terrible curse. Death is my reward. We saw some stuff there. Now, some of you might know this, but I don't think Nick does, so I'm very excited to say it. Last night, we watched this. There was a voice that kind of calls out. The Blade is calling to Jon Snow, and he's like kind of listening to it, but then a voice off screen calls out to him. And we're like, who the fuck is that? And we had a big group outside talking like, who the fuck is it? Who could it be? Whatever. Eric Goldman, formerly of IGN, now of Fandom. Eric Goldman, we had him on Kind of Funny podcast recently. The man with the master plan, exactly. He spoke to director Chloe Zhao about Eternals and confirmed who the voice was. She says that voice was the voice of one of my favorite superheroes, Mr. Blade himself.
Shut up.
Blade. Yeah.
Was it Mahershala Ali?
It was Mahershala Ali.
Let's
Dude.
go, baby.
I don't know.
It's
I
wild.
don't know, and I don't care why that fits in. to this. I'm just pissed off they didn't have a scene together now because I fucking so jacked for
The
that movie.
Daywalker, Nick. The
So now,
Daywalker.
the theory,
All
though,
of our powers, none of our weaknesses, Andy.
the theory with this is we know a Blade movie's coming. That was announced in 2019 at Comic-Con. But we also know that next year we're getting a Moon Knight show. And all the rumors are saying that Mahershala Ali's Blade is going to be in that. I would not be surprised if we see Kit Harington as the Black Knight in Moon Knight as well. And they start building out potential Midnight Suns thing.
God,
It's fucking cool.
I can't wait to see Oscar Isaac.
I'm into it. I
I
thought,
Oscar Isaac.
and shout out to Kit Harington for just chewing up seat, loving this role, having a great time with it. I will say, like I mentioned at the beginning, and we'll get into the plot real quick, but the back and forth between them when he's like, "Are you?" Like because he knows something's up with her. He's like, "Are you a wizard?" Like Doctor
So
Strange.
funny.
I just love that he can say that, and you're like, "Yeah, I buy that. I buy that line as something someone would say."
And
then,
I
of course, still wanting to move in with her at the end was great.
Well, and then the deviant attacks, and what we hear him yell like, "I thought you killed all of those" to Sprite, and Sprite's like, "Wait, you believe that?" And he was like, "I do now." Yeah.
Great.
And before we get to that plot, let me tell you about our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. Are you ready for mashed potato season, aka turkey with gravy and cranberry sauce season, aka every kind of pie and more season? Well, MeUndies is here with the softest and stretchiest undies in the game, so you can be ready for seconds and thirds, baby. I love MeUndies. I have for a very long time. Even right now, of course, I'm wearing my lounge pants, the undies themselves, and the socks. I love having that soft micromodal fabric all over my body. They have undies and loungewear made out of soft, breathable, stretchy fabrics that are perfect for everything from pre-dinner activities to post-dinner naps. MeUndies also has a great deal for you guys. For any first-time purchasers, you can get 15% off and free shipping. MeUndies also has a promise. If you're not satisfied with any product for any reason, you can return your order for a full refund within 45 days. To get 15% off your first order, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/morning. That's MeUndies.com/morning. And next up, shout out to Trade. Are you the kind of person who falls asleep already thinking about the next morning's coffee? Well, Trade's goal is to make every cup of coffee your best ever. The journey to your perfect cup starts with taking their coffee quiz. You use a French press, automatic drip, you're a cold brew person? No problem. Trade will match you to coffees you'll love from 400 plus craft coffees and will send you a freshly roasted bag as often as you'd like. Trade guarantees you'll love your first match. On the off chance that you don't, though, they'll replace it with a different bag for free. Me and Cool Gray had a lot of fun going through the quiz, trying to find him his perfect coffee, and he has been having a great time with Trade. For you guys out there right now, Trade is offering your first bag free and $5 off your bundle at checkout. To get yours, just go to drinktrade.com/kindafunny and use promo code kindafunny. Take the quiz to start your journey to the perfect cup. That's drinktrade.com/kindafunny, promo code kindafunny for your first bag free and $5 off of your bundle. That's drinktrade.com/kindafunny. And next up, shout out to Uncommon Goods. If you're on a mission to be the best gift giver ever this season, it's never too early to start looking, no matter who you're shopping for. Uncommon Goods is the place to find remarkable and truly original gifts for anyone. Me and Gia actually recently just did a puzzle that we got from them. That was a lot of fun just for some like bonding date night time. And there's actually a bunch of really cool date night options there. There was one thing that I was looking at that is a date night painting where you get this, you get the package and you actually get a 90-minute session with an instructor. You guys get to paint together. It's a whole thing. It sounds like a blast. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, unique, and often handmade. They have the most meaningful, out of the ordinary gifts anywhere. And with every purchase you make, Uncommon Goods gives $1 back to a nonprofit partner of your choice. That's awesome. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/kindafunny. That's uncommongoods.com/kindafunny for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. uncommongoods.com/kindafunny. Cool.
It's time for the plot. Tim says it's time for the plot. What a cool Pink Floyd. Like, I was not expecting to hear Pink Floyd there, everybody. That was like cool as shit. I was expecting some sort of remixed version, bullshit version. No, we got the straight up Pink Floyd song. That was cool as hell. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
I just want everyone to know Mike texted me about 2 minutes ago and said in all caps, Harry fucking Styles, massive. Ladies and gentlemen, Eternals. Not the Eternals, just Eternals. It's 5. I'm going off the Wikipedia, by the way, because I didn't have a chance to watch this again and type it all up. As you all know, it just came out yesterday. So it's going to be a slightly abbreviated plot, but it's 5,000.
It starts with a title crawl, and I got to let all y'all know.
I hated
the
it.
moment this started, I was like,
not a good time.
Oh, no, the reviews were right.
Yeah.
Not a good time.
It was not good. It was not good.
I think, unfortunately,
I liked it.
Needed, though.
I was like,
Yeah,
just give us a little voiceover. Give us like
something, man.
an
Not just this
animatic
airy sound in the back with like boring
No,
font.
see, I dug it, and I feel like it set the tone. I immediately thought, man, fuck, Dune really needed this.
Oh, Dune definitely needed it.
Yeah.
But Dune was like this. Fuck y'all. Either you get this or you don't. We got part 2 greenlit no matter what. Denis Villeneuve learned from Blade Runner 2049. He was like, get him to commit to the sequel before the movie comes out.
I'll tell you the biggest problem with it, Tim. Not only the font, but they went with the justified paragraph shaping thing, just like they do in Star Wars. I
Like a
hate it,
block.
Kevin, because there's way too much space in between that comma and that word. Like, what are we doing here? We got to fix this. Let's just even them all up, even up all the spaces to where you can't notice. I don't want like 7 terrible kerning.
I will say though, I dug the soundtrack over the Marvel Studios logo. Did we talk about that?
Yeah.
This was my least favorite Marvel Studios intro in a long time.
I think it was their way of saying, hey, we're doing something different here.
We're gotta chill right now, guys.
It's
you
chill,
didn't?
man.
Oh,
It's
dude,
chill.
I loved Pink Floyd. I thought it was fucking dope.
No, I love Pink Floyd. I love it. I
No.
just feel like the way that it didn't hit, it never hit. It was just this vibe. It's like, and that's what the movie is. But like,
That's the whole movie, Tim. The whole movie just is that vibe.
Really? Because I kind of sat back and I was like, all right, this is sick as shit. Like, I really dug it. I don't know.
I'm very happy that it hit you and other people that way, I'm sure. But for me, I was a little
into the
like,
first one. Anyway, it's 10,000 BC. 10 superpowered Eternals from the planet Olympia are sent by the celestial Erisem to Earth. This is where we get the first scene where they're kind of ascending in that cool ass ship. And they put their armor.
Domo.
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 That's what it was.
Arrogado.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they are sent there, and they put their cool outfits on. Which I'm like, are these things armored or are they soft material? Because I can't tell.
They're stunning, though.
I think the shoulder
stunning.
blades were like armored and like plastic, and then the material itself was good, but it was so well done that
cool.
I'm like, this is how they should make these costumes from now on, and everyone looked great in them.
I loved it.
Cool
I absolutely loved the costume design and the vibrancy of the colors, especially when the palette of this movie is pretty muted for the most part, like because it's so kind of real cinematography, like real world lighting and all that stuff. These costumes look so nice and so professional and high quality. Like, I loved it. It is kind of the opposite of watching like the Cowboy Bebop trailers and stuff. Like, this ain't cosplay. Like, this is not cosplay. This is otherworldly.
This is
I love their use of colors. I love the use of the colors per character. I love the Power Ranger vibes and all that stuff like Andy was talking about earlier. But my favorite thing is when Kingo, Kumail's character, was wearing the wrong color, and I was like, this is fucking wrong. Like, what the fuck is this? He's like, oh, no. This is like a movie about Icarus's life. And I'm like, this is so dope. And there's a suit up scene in this movie where I was like, I didn't expect it. I did not expect a suit up scene where they put the bracelets on, they all get their suits, and the fucking score hits with it. I'm like, thank you guys. That was awesome.
It's hype as shit. I've always, like, as a kid, I loved the red fire dude and the yellow lightning girl and like all
Captain
that
Planet,
shit.
man. It's always Captain Planet.
I've just always been like, I don't care what IP it is, I'm gonna love that shit. So to see it
Voltron.
in a Marvel movie and to see it done this well, yeah, I totally agree. The costumes look fucking awesome.
They look
I'll give a
great.
shout out to the weaponry and the powers and that art style, specifically
sick.
with Thena's blades and how it sort of is weirdly reminiscent of Doctor Strange's powers, but like they're
different
as they're
glyphs.
coming out and they're glyphing out, but she's like her specifically because it was very well done and never really called out, but her weapons change constantly depending on
No,
what she
I
needs.
think she only has
Sometimes-
3 weapons.
Was it a shield? She had a shield, a
has a
dagger, a
dagger.
sword, and then like the spear, right?
I don't think she has a sword. I think it's always a spear.
Is it always the spear?
I think the spear grows an axe, like a little axe, not
Oh,
like a
that's
full
cool.
blown
But
axe.
either way, it was cool
This
that
is
she was
cool
like,
shit.
instead of pulling out more, she was just like the shield would turn it like something would turn into the shield and then it would come back to the other thing. And it was never like expressly like, hey, look how cool this is, because they were like, we fucking know. We know.
Yeah, because it was a little dagger type of device, and then it turned into a shield that protected her.
At one point though, it was like a half blade thing.
Yeah, it was the
yeah,
round.
it's
like
it
the
was
little
a dagger.
round
Yeah,
thing.
it's a
That then she
round,
went like
yeah.
this and it turned
It was
into
like
a
a
And it
full
grapple
opens
shield.
into a
and, like,
shield. Yeah,
I was like, that's super creative, and it feels like it belongs in this universe, which was cool.
it's creative and it's cool, but as a power, that's pretty like that's kind of lame. It was like
Well, it's-
this
Kevin,
guy
it's one
can
of those things
shoot
where you-
shoot out of his fingers, and this girl, she makes a shield and a spear.
Well,
Like,
first off,
she's a
it's
warrior,
it's good, huh?
She's a
not,
warrior.
yeah, and she's not only doing that, she's also like the fucking most deadly person in the universe. Like, she uses those because she is a fighter. She's a straight up warrior. Her
No,
skills and her
I
combat
get that, but I'm
abilities
saying, but was
supplement
that
those weapons.
that was her power, like the being a warrior, or was that who she was?
She had great hair too, and that's
Well,
a lot.
in the
Ask Tim, that's very powerful.
Yeah,
Very
in the
powerful.
same way that like Sprite can't go out there and just use weapons and fight like her. Like, she's just really damn good at fighting and shit.
It does
Yeah.
beg the question: why not just make 5 Icaruses and send them? Why do you need to
that
have a
would
team?
work
Like,
well.
because this is no disrespect to Kumail's character, but the finger guns didn't seem like they were getting the job
they're
done. Really,
dope as fuck though.
but not a like. Then you see Icarus fucking
yeah,
melting people's
laser
faces
eyes
like
is
with
Felix.
Superman's laser eyes, and then you
Yeah.
see like
Nick, I've always said this, like, just like when they say make the whole plane out of the black box. Tony Stark, why don't you just give everybody's Iron Man suits? Everybody will be unbeatable.
exactly.
yeah,
I don't
so
know why you don't do it. Give Captain Rogers
like,
an Iron Man suit.
I like them all having a unique purpose when it comes
Well,
to
it's more
doing
entertaining,
mind
of
control. The
I have it right here, Kevin.
Cersei
It's,
changing stuff.
Oh,
Ajax.
never mind.
Like those
Ajax
all
is the,
seem.
other one.
Ajax heals her own team, which
Right.
makes great sense for a leader. It seems like a bunch of them are like they have a purpose, and we see it when Sprite is doing the like storytelling because it's developing humanity and giving them something to strive for. And then was it Fantas?
Fastos.
Fastos is helping them develop
does
technology.
machines.
Yeah, all of that makes sense. But then we have like finger guns
Yeah.
and
No,
like
like, finger guns also
super
turns-
strong.
Finger
shield
guns is like
arms.
Hadoukens and
Gilgamesh.
like Kamehamehas, you know.
I know you guys were speaking very positively about Kumail being like the sort of MVP of this, but I feel like it was Gilgamesh. I thought that guy. I'm not familiar with this actor Don Lee, but
Yeah, he
Don
was
Lee.
great.
So
he's fucking
this is his
great. He was
American
so good in this.
debut in movies. I was reading. Ma Dong Seok is his name, and he's a Korean American actor that is huge over there.
Dude.
He was in Train to Busan and a bunch of other leading
Oh
roles.
fuck!
He's a
Okay, I need to watch
major
that still.
big deal.
have
But
to
yeah,
watch
this
that
is kind of like a move over into American
the
films.
power punch.
That
so
shit.
fucking sick.
No, it wasn't
it's
even that,
cool.
Andy. It's the fucking like stomp when he like nails the deviant's head into the ground. It's like bah.
And
that
the
was so
theater
cool.
rumbles.
Yeah, it was very well done.
I love
anyway.
I love the like what Nick's talking about the glyphs and like kind of like the just design of the Eternals is so fucking cool, and like we've seen this so much in the MCU, and they just knock it out of the park every time nowadays with like every kind of new world mystic element being added, having its own vibe. I love that like we get throwback moments though of like it kind of looks like an Infinity Gauntlet on Gilgamesh's hand as he's beating things, and like obviously that's on purpose. Like we know the iconography of that, but to see it in the Eternal style, I just love that. I love it. It builds the world out like from what we saw in Infinity War of them going to Nidavellir and having the dwarves kind of make the the different weaponry and all that, the armory and all that shit. Like, it's just cool that there is this universe that exists, like including the Celestials that last time we saw in a movie it's nowhere. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. It is a play, like the skull of one of these Celestials is a location that we see. It's so
It
so
does
cool.
look-
It's always
it does
been this
look
such far out concept, and now that it's very much here, it's so badass to actually see it in action. And when it grows out of the planet at the end and it's trying to come out, like that is some of the coolest imagery. That is like I want concept art of seeing the giant head frozen
Dude.
like in ice kind of at the end, and it reminds me of Hyperlight Drifter.
So
Great
dope.
game. Check it out, everybody.
Or
I can't name it,
Transformers. I can't
Dark
even
of the
remember the
Moon.
name of the last one. No,
Last King,
no.
Last King, King
Last
Moon
night. Yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah. When
got- it
Unicron
really
was coming out of the
sucks.
planet, fucking
Oh,
garbage.
dude, no. I'm sorry. Like I mentioned the visual, but the visual of RSM at the end
RSM.
where it parts the clouds, and he's just standing there like, "Yo, what the fuck did you guys do?"
So
Like,
cool.
For me,
I
it
left you
was
guys
when
at
he-
home in my house to house sit for fucking 5,000 years, and this is the
I
shit
took
that
a
you did?
nap and woke up to all these calls and texts. What is going on?
For me, it was like when it shot to him, like when he after like kidnaps them, and
Yeah.
he's floating in space, and they are a speck, and he
Yeah.
is just enormous.
This
God, the
massive
scale
thing.
was so good. The scale
And then
was
he
so
like
well
black
done.
holes out. I like how he
Yeah.
goes around it.
I love how
creates
we just stopped
singularity
doing
for
the
a second.
plot.
Then
Yeah.
it's gone. Anyway, we'll continue with the plot. Obviously, they land. A deviant kills this kid's dad, and then the Eternals show up and they save the day. And Gemma Chan gives him a little dagger, and the kid's like, "Why didn't you save my dad?" And she's like, "Listen, there's nothing I'm going to say here that's going to make you feel better. It's just."
And you all calling Kumail lame with the finger guns, like it is
Well, I just
so
think it's a
badass
lame.
to
I think
see
it's a lame
guy-
power. Is all I'm
to
saying.
see a dude look that badass and walking up and going like charging it up. It's so fucking sick, dude.
It's not that it's not
cool.
cool, Andy. It's just that he shot one of the deviants, and the deviant's like, "Ow!" And then Rob Stark came and fucking lays the thing's head off, and you're like, it's order of magnitude how much lamer it was than Laser Eyes. Nothing's cooler than Laser Eyes. Can we get that right now, Kevin? Can I get a ruling on that? Finger guns or Laser Eyes?
Laser eyes for sure.
Thank you.
Finger
Kevin is
guns
the
are
final
way
word.
Here's the
Kevin
thing.
is the final
If he
word.
had laser fingers, we might have an argument. Because then,
Oh,
you know,
that'd be fucking cool.
laser eyes, you shoot two parallel. You're gonna shoot those
Yeah.
together, right?
You can't ever deviate.
You
Finger
you can't
gun,
do like the Matrix kind of
right? You can't.
All around.
Yeah.
Andy, they're around you. You circle.
I want to
That
say
would make
Richard Madden though at the end. Like, let's talk about somebody who comes through in the clutch, because we have that sequence in the rainforest, Nick, where the deviants are attacking all the people, and Richard Madden comes down and he's like almost dies, and he's laser eyeing everybody,
Mhm.
and then the deviant that evolved runs away, and this motherfucker cannot hit him. Like Richard Madden is missing, Icarus is missing every laser eye shot on the deviant that's just kind of running away.
He was concussed, Andy.
He's fucking missing his shot like a loser, and at the end, he's able to hit Makari, the speed lady, like as she's speeding around, and he's able to hit her there. Like that guy comes in the clutch. That's like a primetime player.
You're just, you know
PTP.
what? You're just too on the side of finger guns. But we're gonna keep going because we're still, yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. In the first scene of this movie, she gives the kid the dagger, and you're thinking this dagger is gonna be very important later in life. And then we cut over to London at some point, and she's taking a picture of the dagger. It's modern times. We're gonna jump back and forth modern times. You're like, oh, this dagger. This is the second time we've seen this dagger. This is gonna be super, super important. And then her alarm goes off. She goes, oh no, I'm late. Now, I love the Eternals. They're super advanced beings, but clearly they don't understand what an alarm's for. An alarm isn't to tell you that you're late to an appointment. It's to tell you an hour before you're supposed to leave for the appointment. But I digress.
They became too human.
I thought it was absolutely crazy. What was she late for? Her class
Her own
of
class
like
of
sixth
small children
graders.
at the
like young
National
kids.
History Museum or something like that.
Like you were supposed to be there.
yeah,
There were a
Should let
bunch
him
of
down.
people waiting on you. This is
Should
terrible.
let him down.
Terrible.
It doesn't matter though, because guess what? Guess who stepped in for her? Substitute teacher, Jon Snow.
5'8" Kid Harington King.
And I'll tell you what, right now, our 5'8" king, I thought he knew nothing, but it turns out he knows a lot
Yeah.
about philosophy. And she's like, this is a class about his like historical artifacts
It's a
and
weird,
stuff like that.
weird poem he was reading these kids.
And he's reading a poem, and let me tell you though, dude, those people in the class were eating it up. And then of course, very quickly we realized these two have a relationship, and I think it was like one of the
So do the kids,
someone
you
in the
know what I
front
mean?
row was like, "See you later tonight." Like, oh, and it was the mid '90s. Ooh, from the crowd that was
Yeah.
seeing Fresh
Ow!
Prince. Love it.
Yeah.
Then let's see. We cut over. I think later that night it's her birthday or something like that, and
His birthday.
his birthday, and Sprite's there, but she's like, "Who's this actress?" And it's not. And the guy tries to feel her hand, and she's like, "No, I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid," and has to walk away, unfortunately. Which sucks, and we're starting to think, okay, she's a vampire in a kid's body. It sucks. That's what we're doing.
Vampire,
Kirsten Dunst
yeah.
did it a little bit better, but not much. I've seen better, but not many. They go away and they go for a little bit of walk, and of course, who should attack them on one of the London Rhines, the rivers? The Deviant, but it's not Deviant. We're gonna call him Mega Deviant from now on because he's Mecha Deviant. He's there and he's got all the powers and he can
It's not a
heal
robot,
himself.
though.
And she's like, we gotta go. We get a little moment
was-
here beforehand
this
that
was- Sorry,
Go ahead.
this was moment number 2 for me after the title crawl where I was like, oh no, like this is not that great. Because like this CG monster deviant thing, which I know that we just have like a inherent kind of dislike of going into it, where it's like, even if it was done well, it's kind of just like, we think it's not going to be. We expect it to not be done well. So we see this thing and we're like, okay, I'm already not liking this. You need to prove to me that I should like it. And it coming up, finding them randomly in the London area that they were, it all just felt too coincidental to me, where I was like, I feel like I need to, in my mind, be like, well, they're hunting them for some reason that I'm sure they'll explain later or whatever. I don't like that, especially for a movie
was
that
it
is
not
this kind of
Icarus?
Shakespearean and this kind of like, but that's my thing is like, I get it and they explain it later,
Yeah.
but it just kind of felt not fun to watch, not engaging to watch. It's kind of like, all right, cool. They're going to explain this later in some way that
Right.
isn't going to make me happy. And that's exactly what ended up happening. So I don't know. It's rough with this shit. Like, I don't have a solution, but it definitely was a moment that I was like, I'm out of this, until they were running away. And Jon Snow was kind of like, okay, fuck, I believe all the weird shit y'all were saying. And I'm like, all right, I'm back in.
If
Yeah.
you notice, I was going to mention one day, I think near the end of Ragu Bagu and near the end of just in review, we rank all of the useless CGI monsters. Because I'll tell you this right now. Deviants will be number 1 on my list. I think they're the coolest of all the useless CGI monsters because I don't love them, but I think they're fun. Like I think they're
Okay.
I think they're
Is
I think they're
Obadiah
cool.
Stane included in that?
No, useless CGI monsters. Like I'm talking like
know, I'm joking,
the
I'm
black
joking.
blob dudes from fucking Suicide Squad and that bullshit. You know.
Of course, we got to see before this where he's like, "Hey, I want you to move in with me," but he knows something's up, right? He's like, "Weird shit happens around you. Are you a wizard like Doctor Strange?"
So
and I was
funny.
like, "That's really fun." Anyway, this scene happens. Then who should come in? Of course, Icarus comes in to save the day, and we have a little moment for you Game of Thrones fans out there where it's like, thank you. You obviously know we want to see the brothers back together because they didn't get to be together a lot because Jon Snow got sent to the wall and Rob Snow got sent to the Red Wedding, and we all know how that ended.
The pilot. I love that line.
Oh, that's
Like,
great.
You must be the pilot.
You must
Now,
be the
Nick,
pilot.
here's a test for you. Quick little MCU test.
Okay.
Gemma Chan.
Yes.
Is this her first appearance in the MCU?
It's not.
It is not. Who
And
was she before?
was in Guardians? No.
Close. Kind of a
Shit.
similar vibe.
Give me a hint. Give me one hint. Tell me the name.
Space.
The final
Minerva.
The Kree.
Guardians 2?
No.
No.
She was
No,
a
he's
Captain
far
Marvel.
away.
Captain Marvel.
Oh,
She was
right.
She was
That's what it was.
the sniper with all the blue makeup.
That's
That's
right.
And,
cool,
and
that's
Kevin
cool.
Feige was just like, yo, you're dope as shit.
Amazing.
So
That
That gun,
you want to
that
come
gun
back?
was so cool.
That's cool.
It was. But I'm happy she's
Um,
back because she's dope. As
So
an actress.
now it's time to get the team back together, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get the band back together and play one final gig. Where do we go first? North Dakota, where Ajax, played by the venerable Selma Hayek, is hiding out. Not really hiding out, just like hanging out like she's retired out on her cool ranch. Of course, she's not doing much of anything these days because she is dead and green. Apparently, when Eternals die, they go green.
I think he was pale white.
Blue?
I think it's kind of like goes white marble, which I really like.
It makes sense because they've been kind of just absorbing life for all this time, and like once there's nothing there, it's like you see how they really look. Like whenever somebody has like a curse, Nick, and they've looked young all their life, and they die and they shrivel into an old like fucking gross thing finally, because it's been eons of them kind of looking young. That's what happened right here to Salma Hayek, and it was
Fair
so
enough.
sad because I wanted to see her pop off the whole movie.
Yeah, but she didn't really have any, I mean, her only power was to heal people, and that's not very exciting to watch. So R.I.P. Ajak. But at this point, the team without a leader, now we got to have a leader. The little ball in her chest chooses Cersei. And Cersei's like, I don't know what this means. And then she gets shot, put it out to the cosmos to talk to Arisem, who is like, yo, I'm going to lay this out for you. You've been chosen as leader. And guess what? Your job is not really to defend the Earth against the deviants. Your job was to grow humanity, intelligent life on this planet, which is humans, to a point where the celestial baby that I impregnated the Earth can feed off of, and then eventually, when it's ready, it will launch and it will destroy everything. And she's like, well, that's not cool. We got to figure this one out. So from there, we go over to where are we at here? Celestial's plant.
I do want to say, Nick, in terms of your Game of Thrones references, and like, cool, we have the guy doing the score
so
and all that.
distracting, calling her Cersei.
But yeah, that's the thing.
So
Having Robb
distracting.
Stark and Jon Snow kind of love triangling with Cersei. It's like
so
cool,
distracting.
Cool.
Yeah.
I digress. Let's see. We also learned that the deviants were actually the original sort of things they sent to. Oh, we get a little bit of that's right. Her lecture was about apex predators in the beginning, and that was kind of foreshadowing for what the deviants were for. They were there to make sure that humans can grow originally, but then the deviants deviated from that mission because they were like, we don't want this anymore. We're being used. And so the Eternals were created. They're basically machines, and they were created to kill the deviants and then and basically take their place as the people ushering in human
I love
life.
that basically the deviants are like when somebody brings in a python from a different country into Florida, and then it starts reproducing, it starts taking over too fast, and they're like, fuck, population control, we need to kill these pythons, like there's too many of them.
Yeah, and then what do they do? Bring in rabbits, and then there's too many rabbits everywhere, and they're like, let's bring in hawks, and the hawks
No,
start
what they
carrying
do,
away
what they
babies,
do
and
is
they're
that
oh,
like
shit.
what they do is they green light the, hey, you can kill as many pythons as you want, have at it. We need them out of here.
Exactly, and then all of a sudden everyone's got python boots. That's what we're gonna do, Kevin. We're gonna start a
Exactly,
python boot
exactly.
business. We get a couple flashbacks as well. By
Such
the way,
imagination. Look.
introducing the rest of the characters, Druig. We get some scenes later, to like 1500 BC and stuff like that, which show Robb Stark and Gemma Chan falling in love, which was fine. I guess I didn't.
You know what's funny about this movie?
I like
as you're talking about this here, Nick, and all of us really like. I kind of feel like it's one of those movies that if we watched quietly without any voices or anything, just looking at it, and somebody explained what the plot is, it's better than the actual movie is.
Yeah.
Because so many elements are so cool and well thought out. They're just not done that perfectly.
Yeah.
But if you just explained what's happening, you kind of would like
Cool concept.
It's cool, and it
Yeah.
would bridge it down to being a little simpler and awesome. So
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
something there.
Yeah, no, I agree.
We get that. We get Druig. Another scene where I think it's before this, where Angelina Jolie's character gets the mad weary, and we're kind of told. I think that was actually before we understood what they were. That it's too many memories, and this happens to Eternals sometimes, and someone's got to take care of her.
They
So
gotta wipe
Gilgamesh
her.
says, "Hey, we've killed the final deviant. As everything's warring behind us, I'm gonna go take care of her." But Druig, of course, has a crisis of conscience where he's like, "What are we doing here? I could stop all these humans from killing each other." But Fastos is like, "Listen, this is just part of progression. Unfortunately, when war happens, technology is made, and technology actually, believe it or not, it comes out of this that can save lives," which is weirdly true and a really cool, deep concept that's very conflicting even for reality. Tim.
Something I love about this, of it being conflicting, and going back to me saying that I don't think any one character stands out, but together they all work so well because they're all kind of the Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle against each other in different character traits of like filling in gaps. Where I love that Druig is, and it might not be this scene you're talking about, but there was the scene where he's like, I'm going to control everyone and I'm going to stop this. Like,
Right.
fuck you, Ajak.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make sense. For it to then go
I
from...
thought she was gonna kill him.
But I love that she didn't. Like, I love these kind of like conundrums morally that they set up, because seeing Druig here so steadfast in like, no, I know what's right, so I'm gonna do this. You're gonna have to kill me, whatever.
Yeah.
But then to later see the other scene, the flashback, or I guess not flashback, but the flash forward, the present day of him controlling humans, and when the like deviant comes, and it seems like it's all in the up and up and everything's good. But then when the deviant comes, he's controlling the humans with the guns, like mechanically turning them into robots, shooting
So
them.
dope.
It's
That was cool.
it's so dope. But when
It
you
was
think
cool
about
visually.
But it's
how
like,
dark
yeah,
that
it's
is,
wrong.
Messed
Just let him
like
go.
yeah.
it's wrong, and like this guy that we know is coming from the right place. Like that's where I think this movie really succeeds, is like having all these good guys do bad things for the right reasons, and it kind of like just balances out in a really interesting way. So
Yeah.
Druig I thought was very, very, very cool, and him
Very
and
fascinating
Makari
character.
being together, I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that stuff
And I
works
like-
really well.
And then Kumail pointing it out was just the perfect kind of
So good.
line of dialogue.
Yeah.
You need to be like, is this a thing? I don't like this.
No, he says, "Is this happening? I hate it," which was great. Of course, we'll cut over. We got to keep the team back together, so they cut over to the set of Kumail's or of gosh, what's the character's name? Kumail. I'll just call him Kumail's newest movie, which is a retelling of Icarus'
Kingo.
story. It's great, and this
So good.
births one of what I think is one of the best like dynamics between two characters of any MCU movie. I love Kumail Nanjiani and Harish Patel, the two characters here.
So good.
I think they got great chemistry, and the fact that he's just been his valet forever and is like his boy at this point is so great. Andy from KindaFunny.
I will say I'm so happy that the bit paid off, because I felt this is bad. As he's dancing towards the
Oh, yeah.
camera and trying to like be physically comedy funny, I'm like, this isn't working for me. This is like not good. And I know what I'm
You know what
supposed to
joke
be
is
getting out
coming.
of it.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's very good. And then the fact that we're doing a movie about you, Icarus. I like, fuck yeah, thank God, this is good. Like I was really, really relieved there, because I think the comedy kind of the tone is set from that moment of what we're gonna get from Kingo, and the rest of it really works, thankfully. But when those moments are happening and they're doing the intro scene of the Bollywood dancing, I'm like, ooh, this is not great right now.
Well, I mean, this is no disrespect to Kumail, but not a dancer he is not. But a comedian he is, and also a lot taller than I thought he was going to be on screen. And I think this might be where we get the first DC reference, Tim, if I'm not
Oh, yeah?
mistaken.
Yeah, the
'Cause she's like,
Alfred
"Oh, you're like
reference
a
here."
butler, like Alfred,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "I'm sorry, that does not compute. I'll let this one slide. Thankfully, there won't be an even worse one later. I'll let
Well,
this
why
slide."
is it bad? I think it's cool.
Yeah, I
that,
don't know why
like,
worse comes into play, but I do think it's
MCU
funny.
More egregious, I should say, not worse, but like more on the like blatant reference to Superman later, where she's like, "Hey, Superman." I'm like,
I mean,
"Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's-
here we are."
It
This is
adds
weird.
some weird wrinkles to the universe as a whole, but I think that it's funny that weeks ago, we were talking, and Nick was just like, yeah, like the Marvel movies are never going to reference the DC characters, and then they just fucking do 2 weeks later in
Yeah.
Eternals. Like the first thing they said, Alfred, I looked at G and I'm like, oh, she doesn't even know, but this is hilarious.
Shows how much I know about anything, of course.
I'd like to imagine that they're in a multiverse where the DCEU is good. I want to live in that multiverse.
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, like, have you guys seen Batman v Superman? Fucking life changing.
Won 3 Oscars.
Best Oscars. More
Now,
than
hold
any
on,
of
real
Lord of the Rings
quick.
movies.
Don't want to go too long on this. Just a quick thing that I have to
Do
say.
whatever the hell he wants. Friday.
Seeing the Batman trailer in Dolby Atmos.
Oh, I'm
I-
so pissed I
I-
wasn't there.
Dude, I
Shit.
like legitimately was like, I don't know if I can watch this movie afterwards. Like, I'm going through a moment right now. Like, this
Dude.
is so incredible.
It's-
Seeing the title sequence of like,
fucking-
oh my fucking god.
I'm so
Upside
mad. I'm
down,
so
when
mad
he's
I wasn't there for
looking
that
at him
trailer.
upside down in the car as Batman is slow walking toward him upside down with his cape in slow motion and fucking
really
a
cool.
wall of fire behind him, and it just closes in and sets the Batman.
How is it that those two trailers are like the best trailers that have ever existed?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just glad we supported the DCEU because we got this. All of our money that went toward Batman v Superman and Justice League has helped make this happen. Just remember that.
Mhm.
Remember that. We're now part of the solution, everyone. Part of the solution. We should all go see Morpheus. I know they're not the same studio, but it pisses Kevin off.
feels
and
like
it's
it
funny.
kinda
Go
feels like
watch
feel like it.
Morpheus. Let's all go watch Morpheus.
I know
Man,
it's not the
movie.
same studio,
I'll tell
but it
you what.
pisses Kevin off, is what this asshole just said.
I'll tell you what. That trailer.
let me tell you guys. So normally, new movie trailer comes out, I watch it live with y'all, react to it, all that, and then at the end of the day, me and G watch some bullshit reality TV. But before that, I'm like, let me show you the trailers. Like, let's go there. I did not show her Morbius. I was like, it's not even. I'm not gonna waste your time with this. It's not happening. So this was the first time she saw it, and she just looked. She looked at me at the end and was like, oh no.
Oh no, back to back. Anyway, back to the plot, ladies and gentlemen. So we cut over to Camille, we grab him. They go on the plane and over to try and find Druig, who is in the middle of the Amazon. Where was he? South America? I forget where he was. Amazon. And he's just hanging out, man. And he's kind of in a bad place, and he doesn't really want to hang out with them first, but then they kind of convince him to. We get that cool shot with the shotguns, and then
creepy.
The deviants attack again. We get a cool fight sequence here, a cool-ish fight sequence. A little dark for my liking. This is where I'm like some of the natural aspects of Chloe Zhao's filmmaking. I was like, we could have punched this up a little bit because Daddy's having a hard time figuring out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, let's watch that in OLED later for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool. And then from there, I believe we go over. We might get some more scenes here, but I forget. And we go over to Fastos' house where he's living life. And so we see what I like is we see sort of how everyone has chosen to use eternity and live their lives. And they're all interesting. But Fastos is just like, I want to be a dad and I got a husband and I just want to live this life. And I love the line where he's like, I choose to use my hands to fix my kid's bike. That is what I want to do.
And then immediately it's like, do you? And then he shoots the thing and it's like, oh, maybe you are still dabbling.
Right. He's like,
cool
okay.
Technology.
Like, he eye blasts the fucking door and it's all
he's like, he built this house with that. But then of course the beat with the joke that we unfortunately was spoiled in the
90 million times.
The trailer where he's like, what is this made of vibranium? And he's like, that's IKEA fall collection. Or fall collection IKEA.
And the joke actually hit because it was shocking because we've seen this a million fucking times in every trailer and a million fucking times before every movie we've gone and seen in theaters. So like it's been beaten to death. But I think adding the ass at the end of it made it even better.
It did. I agree. That's the little thing. And I alluded to this in our spoiler-free talk, but like there are a ton of scenes from the trailers that are absolutely different in this movie. And like little things like when what's his name? Crow, I think is the bad deviant's name when he gains
Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, he is like around Angelina Jolie, and it felt a little BDSM, and like she was kind of into it, and like she was gonna turn bad. But in this movie, her eyes are like she's under control, like she's gone, and it's like fuck that little tiny change totally changes the narrative of where we're at.
They flipped us they took us for a little ride on that one
because the trailers made us think that Druig and Athena were gonna be the ones to flip. Icarus was always a little bit kind of like, it could go either way.
I never thought with Icarus. I always thought like with Athena. And I think what never made me think that Icarus was ever going to turn, and I still think that I think they still did a pretty decent job with not making it way too obvious. Yeah. It's that sequence in the trailer, Tim, that I absolutely love in this fight when the deviant is holding him down and he's struggling, trying to laser eye him. That sequence is so fucking good. That's like the straight up Bear Leo DiCaprio Revenant sequence where it's just desperation in that moment. I like that moment right there. I felt tense for Icarus. It's like this guy is like all powerful.
Superman, yeah.
And he cannot get out of the situation. Yeah. And you can feel sort of the desperation and the fear that he feels. I thought that sequence is played out so perfectly.
Unfortunately, I think I missed the part where Gilgamesh died in that forest sequence, and then the deviant takes his power. That was rough.
Fucking hated that.
Rough, man. And it hit. That's the thing is like I think that a lot of people are gonna walk away from this movie and just be like, it was whatever. But it's like when you really kind of break down moment to moment, there's a lot of really cool stuff. And I did not expect Gilgamesh to die. I did not expect Ajax to die, and like especially not that back to back the way the movie presents it. And the movie plays with time so well. That's why I like the pacing so much, is that despite jumping between time periods, they make use of the present very well, so that I'm always excited to be in every time period that they're jumping between.
Of course they recruit Fastos. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Those are hard names. Fastos. But before they do that, they meet his kid. And his kid is like, they have the joke that's the ongoing joke. He's like, these are my friends from college. And his kid's like, I saw that guy on TV yesterday. It's Superman, right? And of course, without missing a beat, Rod Stark's like, I don't wear a cape. And I'm like, all right, well, we know who Superman is in this universe here.
Which I love. I love because it makes it more like it is like our world, our universe, like the pop culture references
Sure,
that we're
sure.
making, they also can make.
Oh, I was in
And-
the restroom for this sequence.
Yeah, they reference Superman, and they also reference Julia Roberts as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Andy.
See, here's what's weird for me though, Kev, about it is like they've referenced Star Wars in the past and things like that, and
Well,
like
the kid
it gets
straight up had a Star Wars book in this.
Guardians of the Galaxies, and yeah, they reference everything.
those type of things get iffy when you start to actually think about them in a real timeline where it's like, so why would Peter Parker ever call Empire Strikes Back that old movie when he has a Death Star Lego in Homecoming? Like there's
Because
things like
he's
that
dumb
because
and-
we know the shit, it like
Mhm.
kind of like dilutes it a bit. It's weird that superheroes are a thing in this universe in comic books because superheroes are a thing in this universe, really, unlike our universe. That's the only thing that gets weird about it. Where
Well,
it's
yeah.
like, why wouldn't the comic books be about Iron Man? You know?
That's true. Well,
I
think
imagine
think
that they are
reference
as
that,
well.
though.
Yeah.
I just think that
We
they're
know like Logan,
Also-
there are X-Men comics, but like that
Also
was
legal
years
rights.
later.
Legal rights.
Right.
Like
You
Iron
think
Man
you're
is
gonna go up
definitely
against Tony
he's
Stark?
making
He's
his
a
own.
billionaire.
Yeah.
He's got a team of lawyers like Jay. They share with Jeff Bezos. I digress. By the way, the Empire Strikes Back line hit for me because all you young kids that grew up on the stupid prequels or the new trilogy, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
You don't.
We would never
understand
be
it.
like, oh, that old movie, what's it called? Oh, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know why I
my
turned it
10-year-old
Tim, have you
younger
ever met?
brother.
Have you
fine,
ever
but-
met a Gen Zer? They don't know shit.
I
Okay,
don't
they're
know
just
any
their
of it.
brains have been melted away by TikTok. They don't understand anything. Look at
true.
Andy right now. Look at him. He doesn't know where he's at.
Look at him. Look at him from the nose up.
God damn it! I love
Nick,
that
I am
joke's live.
ancient in terms of TikTok.
I know. I'm just teasing. Let's see. So from there, Fistos is like, listen, we got to come up with a plan here. And the plan's going to be there it is.
Not working.
Give it to me. Hey, do you
You
know
lost
anything?
it.
I know nothing,
don't
Jon
want-
Snow.
I don't want it.
Wait, hold on. Wasn't it the other side, Andy?
Yeah, it was your mouth, Andy. It wasn't your eyes.
No,
it was the
definitely-
beard.
It was the eyes. No, it was the eyes.
No, it was the beard.
Was it?
Yeah,
it was
it
the
I
beard.
thought it was the
wasn't
mouth.
it?
No, it was the eyes. I have the meme. I can bring it up.
Oh, okay. Well, give me the mouth.
Oh, the mouth.
Let
Give
me
me
get a
the
little
mouth.
Oh man.
I don't want it.
That really works. That really works. You don't think it's gonna, then
subscribe
it
to our
does.
damn YouTube channel. You're getting this every freaking week. Sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, depending on Ghostbusters. Hey, so we're like, how are we gonna beat this?
Depending
Well,
on
Fistos is like,
Ghostbusters.
listen, there it is. Oh my god.
God, that is horrifying.
don't want
You
it.
look like the things from Edgar Wright's Bad movie.
I don't want it.
Bad
Oh,
movie.
the at
Oh,
World's
the
End.
aliens.
Yeah. Pull your face away.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
No, it looks like the faceless things from Last Night in Soho. I digress. We go back and Fistos is like, I got to figure something out. We'll do the Unimind, which is a connection between all the Internals. If we do that, we might be able to use Druig to mind control the Celestial Tiamat to put it back to sleep forever.
When did they learn the name? Because like all of a sudden everyone was like, "Oh yeah, Tiamat's coming," you know. And I was like,
think
"What did I
maybe
miss?"
Arison told her that back. You know, I
interesting.
don't know.
Maybe she
there's no
had that knowledge through the little sphere in her throat, which is like such a cool sci-fi thing.
Every
here's-
time it like came out, it always grossed me out. I don't like anything happen around this area. It makes me very uncomfortable.
It
Me
reminds
too,
me of
I'm with you.
like a tracheotomy, and that always makes that
Yep.
always gross.
No,
as hell when
thank
they have
you.
to do those in
Yeah,
the
it's probably all
Tracheotomy,
those the
wow.
smoking things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Here's my question before we move on. Are there multiple versions of these Eternals that have been put on other planets? Because it showed
No,
the
they're different
factory,
versions. Yeah,
so everyone looks
they're all
different.
different. Yeah, because
Okay.
we saw
I
Star
think there's a bunch of
Lord.
body types.
Star Lord.
Star Fox.
Star Fox, you're right. I said it, and I was like, "That's not right." Say it again,
Yeah,
Kevin.
yeah.
Say it again.
Say it again.
This is a cool scene. I kind of like the idea of like they're being manufactured, and going back to what you were saying earlier, Nick, of like why do they have different powers? Like, what's the point of making something like? I like that it kind of seems like they don't even know. They're just like, we are making a bunch of different things, and we're just hoping for the
We'll
best.
see which one works. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of feels a little bit more like I know they're making it, but in the same way that kind of humans make babies, where you don't get to choose your baby. It's just, is luck and science and all that shit combined. Like, I kind of like that it felt a little bit more real. Another thing from trailers that wasn't in this movie was we saw other Celestials in the trailers that were not in this one. The Green Celestial. We saw him doing some sciencey shit, and he wasn't in this movie.
Sucks. I
Oh.
really wanted to see
There you
him.
go.
Wait, oh, the one that had like kind of the wing, like
Yeah, and he like pulled out
Yeah.
like some discs and like did some
Yeah,
shit and then
yeah.
wasn't in it.
Cool. Either way, this is where we start getting where they're like, we got to go get the ship, and the ship is where we go back and we meet the speedster, whose character is I can't remember either.
Makari.
Makari, she's awesome. I was at
So
first I was
rad.
like, what's going on here? And then still, but Rob Stark hasn't made the turn yet. And then he's like, listen, I can't let you guys do this. And they're like, what happened? And it turns out he's the one that used the deviants that thawed out from the ice to kill Ajax and then framed it framed the deviant for it. And the deviants just trying to get by, man. We're just trying to go to college better
They're just trying to eat
ourselves.
their food. They're just trying to eat their
Just trying to
food.
eat my food and hang out.
I'm just trying to
and
stay
they're
out
like-
of trouble, do like after school program type things. I don't want to be on the streets,
And up until this point, I was like, this movie's kind of dragging a little bit for me. But once I realized, oh shit, this is like they got to square off against Superman here. I'm like, this got me right back in.
I
A
liked
fight
it. It
ensues,
popped for me
and he's
right
like,
there.
I'm gonna go. Don't screw around with me, or else I'll have to kill all of you. And then Sprite's like, well, I've been in love with you forever, so I'll go with you. And the team is divided. And then just in an interesting move, Kumail's character just abstains. He's like, I'm gonna abstain from fighting, and I'm gonna disappear until the very end of this movie where I wear a dope turtleneck. And it was a choice. We'll just say that it was
It was a
choice
bad
that I
choice.
had
It was
to
a bad
be
choice. Like
in the climax.
it should have been more obvious, because I feel like he should have been in the background, being like, "I'm abstaining, guys. Remember, I don't want to fight right now because
Right.
I'm abstaining." Because I forgot about it and it felt weird. It felt weird. It felt like
What-
they'd forgotten something.
Well, I'll tell you why I forgot it. Because I think in that moment right there, that Harish Patel's performance in saying goodbye was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Him
That was a
telling the
beautiful moment.
crew goodbye got me to tear up, and I was not expecting that from this character who, for the most part, has just been comic relief. Him showing up with
So
all the
many
cameras.
cameras.
Oh
So
my
many
god, this guy's
cameras.
fucking hilarious. I love these bits. But
like-
him telling everybody like, I
So
I
funny.
thank you for everything you've done. I will like whatever it was in that moment got
humanity.
me real good. It got me real good.
Yeah,
It's true.
for me, it was the line of like, "Thank you for everything you've done for humanity," and it was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit, that's really cool. That's really cool to be able to thank
He's
these."
like, I'm gonna miss you all. Like, oh, that's awesome.
But the Eternals are like, we're not gonna stop. We gotta save this planet. So they send Makari out to locate the place the emergence is gonna happen, and which is gonna be in a volcano in the Indian
Fast.
Ocean. And so they're like, we'll head over there. But they encounter, of course, the other Eternals. Icarus and Sprite are waiting there for them. Also, Crow shows up and is like, I don't know whose side I'm on, but maybe I'll just do what Nick does when we're playing Smash Brothers and just fucking troll everyone here.
Yeah.
Because the only way to win is to make sure everyone else loses. And a fight ensues. Cool fight. Fastos is like, Druid, you got to go, and then Druid gets taken out of the action. So then they're like, the only person left is seriously you can do this. You can do this. So they handle Icarus. He like staples him to the floor. Meanwhile, Angelina gets tied up in bondage in the cave, but ends up freeing herself and killing
Dude,
the last remaining
Makari
deviant.
fucking up Icarus is like this is the type of shit that I love. And Tim, it's a visual feast and daddy's hungry.
Visual
Okay?
feast,
Feed
dude.
me.
Feed, Andy, feed.
All of these sequences, again, just like the sequences that we saw in Shang-Chi, where I'm like, this is fucking a cartoon put to real life and it doesn't look dumb. And her just fucking knocking him into the mountain and him just being totally perplexed by her speed. And then when Fastos comes in and it's just like blasting the dude with all the bracelets, it's just the coolest shit ever. Like this is a visual spectacle. This is like a superhero movie, and you need to watch this on a big ass screen to really appreciate it.
So cool.
Michael watch
Love
it on
it.
his phone though.
I love this scene so much, and like it reminds me of the moment in Justice League, both versions of Justice League, where we get all of them beating up against Superman, and then we get the Flash running, and he looks over, and Superman does the slow turn over at him.
He
It's like, oh
clowns
shit,
him
you're
out,
moving
right? He
as fast
trips
with
him.
me. But it's like that one moment of like, oh fuck, this is so cool. This kind of felt like an entire fight scene of that. And
Yeah.
it was just faster and just kind of
was
moved.
fun.
I
It was very
just
well done.
really, really enjoyed it. And I thought they used her power set really well, especially when it was essentially Flash versus Superman, And I really love too the not omnipresent kind of knowledge aspect of these people being real things at the end of the day, of like her running away like around the world to try to find where the source
That was so dumb.
was. Like, I love that shit because I love that she was gone, and when she comes back later and like doesn't really know what's going on, that's so cool because I feel like a lot of other movies would have just had her come in and immediately put it together and like know what's going on. I liked how real so many of the characters felt.
And also shout out to her being deaf and using a lot of sign language. I thought that was really cool.
That was cool.
And that's the reason why this movie got review bombed because
I thought I got review bombed because of Fastos.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah,
everything, a little bit of everything. Yeah, it's like, hey, there's a lot of like people that are showing it's equality, right? This is great, and that's why a lot of reason why I got review bombed. But I loved seeing her sequences. I loved I never in a million years thought that we would see two gay men kiss on screen in a DC or in a Disney movie. Like, that's pretty shocking to me. I didn't expect that, and it's awesome. We got it. We got somewhat of a kiss in the background of the last Star Wars movie, and it was like, there's gonna be a gay kiss in Star Wars, and it was like just kind of in the background. Hope you don't notice it. But I thought it was awesome. Very cool.
And with that, from the comic side of things, like the Eternals lineup we have here is not what it looks like in the comics at all. A lot more white men in the comics. Sprite is a white boy, man, boy, whatever you want to say. And then we got other characters as well that are totally different. Like a lot of them are men. Ajax is a man in the comics. Like, so they did a lot there. I think was very great choices. Like every actor in this is fantastic, I think. But what's really cool, to Andy's point about the Disney stuff, is Disney is putting their foot down and being like, we're not censoring this shit. So this
that was the big thing too.
Worldwide,
in worldwide, some countries are like, we're banning this, and they're like, cool, we're not going to re-edit it.
Great.
Which is great.
And, but what sucks is there are some countries that are just straight up re-editing it. I think they're going to get sued. It's going to turn into a whole thing. But at the end of the day, at this point, shout out to Disney for how they're handling this movie, at least, where they not only like stuck to their guns on like trying to obviously say something and do something different, but then stand by it, which is huge, because the Star Wars moment Andy's talking about, they let get edited out for other territories. So it's cool.
I will also add, I think this might have been the first Marvel movie to have a sex scene too, right?
Oh yeah,
debatable, because Tony Stark got his fuck on multiple times.
Yeah, we never saw it. We
yeah,
just
like they were like he was inside her in that
the
scene.
fact that we saw a thrust, I was like, wow,
this was
they're
like
fucking
Tim,
right now.
Tim, it was like almost
It's
as hot
wet down
as
there.
the scene at the
I don't think we needed it. I don't think it
We
like
definitely didn't need it, Kevin.
No,
or-
it like
I
wasn't.
think we did. I think we needed it because we're all so clearly invested in Kit Harington and her that I think we needed that to like push it and be like, yo, these motherfuckers have 7,000 years together, and like they be fucking, dog. Like they be on some shit.
One thing about the fight before we leave it, I really liked that at the end of it, they beat it, like Fastos is the one that beats Icarus, right? Using his technology to like hold him down, where all these other people using strength don't do it, and I really like that. I think that's cool.
He does to a degree, but then Icarus, of course, like all Superman archetypes, punches harder, gets out of it, and goes to kill Cersei. Well, before that, Cersei got stabbed in the gut by Sprite,
Which is great.
and
Good
then
moment there.
Druig knocks her unconscious, and you're like, oh
The
shit,
Rock.
is Cersei gonna die because we don't have our healer anymore? And they're like, well, don't think about it ever again. You're
I
like,
think
oh,
Druig
okay.
would have just like mind controlled her or something, but
He could have done that.
He was like, I'm gonna do this the
like-
old-fashioned way.
5,000 years of animosity. We're a family. I gotta just knock you over the head.
let's use the most
Just like
prehistoric
Kane.
tool right here, a rock,
Exactly.
and let me just bang her over the fucking head.
The
Right
original
here in
hammer.
these final moments, what I think would have helped me feel a bit better. I don't think it would have fixed all my issues with the movie, but I would have felt a bit better had Bill Skarsgård's character Crow, the evolved deviant. I would have liked to see the evolved deviant not fuck around and just get killed uselessly by Angelina Jolie. I think we need to see more of him throughout the movie to make it feel meaningful, and we need to see him try to help Gemma Chan succeed in her ultimate goal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I absolutely wanted. I wanted his turn to be a little bit more like Homie from Captain Marvel, where you're like, this guy's a bad guy the whole time, and he's a bad guy, and then he turns into an awesome guy, and you're like, oh, maybe the Kree aren't that, or the Skrull aren't that bad after.
See, but even then, I would take it a step further where I don't necessarily need him to flip sides and have the, kind of trope, the Batman v Superman, we're working together now, but just have him end a little bit more sympathetic, because I feel like his kind of arc in this movie went from bad guy to sympathetic to like bad guy so quickly that it's like none of those felt developed, and it just sucks. Like I would have liked it if, like the rest of the Eternals, like the way they leave Sprite where it's like, yo, Sprite kind of fucks things up, and not in the way that like Star-Lord fucks things up in Infinity War.
Well,
Like,
hold on a second. That was really bad. Star-Lord and Infinity War,
No, let's not
catastrophic.
start. Let's not start.
I mean,
Well, I'm just
regardless
saying
of
it's
that, but it's like
catastrophic. Yeah.
catastrophic, but brought to by love, like brought to by like real human emotion and stuff, which
Yeah,
Star-Lord is
Sprite is the
half
exact
human.
same thing.
That's exactly my point, Kevin. Yes, like they're like dealing with this thing. I think that she kind of like is set up in this way. What's up?
I thought you were saying it was not as bad as Star-Lord.
It's different, but I whatever. Forgot it. Train's left the station.
Moving on, the train is gone, and we all have to pee, so we're waiting for the bathroom right now. Knocking on the door.
All of us.
Hey, gotta go. So we have a great scene where Icarus breaks free, but of course he goes and he confronts Cersei, and he can't kill her as this massive, beautiful visual of the Celestial's hand is cresting from the water, and she's turning it into ice as its head starts popping out, which is super cool. And he's like, he loves her too much, and I think this is where. We get a pretty good performance here from Richard Madden as he starts to cry, and like his eyes light up for a second, and then they go back and they light up for a second, and then he's like, "Fuck, I can't do this. I love her too much." So he's just like, "I gotta go. I gotta take
He's
off."
good, man. Why doesn't he get more roles? This motherfucker's good, dude.
It was good. This part was good. I liked this. I like the acting in this part. She freezes the thing, and it's all done. And it's like, woohoo, we won. And then Icarus is like, I'm gonna go punch myself into the sun. And Joey started laughing because she has no heart.
Well, it's a really stupid scene. I do really wish that at that moment, Icarus had looked at her and said, "I'm like, I don't want to hurt you, but I can't not do my mission, my job, whatever, right? Like this is my role. Like you have to destroy me." And I wish she like destroyed him.
Same.
Yeah. Well, they set
That
that up,
would've been
right?
way
They set
more
up that
meaningful.
she could kill things now. And I thought
Yeah.
that's where
Well, I
that was
mean,
going
she
to go
kills
too.
the Celestial.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's what it
Yeah.
is.
I'm on the opposite end of you guys. I like it. I like him choosing to kill himself
Shooting
and
into
doing
the
it the
sun.
way. Yeah, because like he knows what it is. Like he knows that it is based on the myth of Icarus flying too close to the sun and
Sprite,
stuff. Like
yeah.
they set that up earlier with all the other characters and how they're based on legends and all this stuff. Or they are the legends that mythology is kind of based on. So I kind of read it as like he knew what he was doing and like he didn't know that there were viewers watching necessarily. But like I'm not so taken out of it because like I know that it's on the nose, but I think the character knows it's on the nose, so that kind of makes it okay.
Fair enough. I do like thinking about the Superman thing, going back to that for a second. Do you think that people like in the 40s saw him and were like, man, that'd make a cool comic book? And then that's where they got the idea from Superman from? Because he has a lot, he's very close to Superman.
In the MCU.
In the MCU.
Yeah, totally.
I'm gonna make that a rumor.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
it could be possible. Yeah,
That'd
it's
be cool.
interesting.
I don't think
Also,
that's crazy.
yeah. Also, there's a very popular Superman comic that he at the end, All Star
go into the
Superman.
sun.
Yeah.
All-Star Superman, we had to go regenerate in the sun. Yeah, that was cool as shit.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that
cool
one.
as fuck.
Also, shout out to the Long Halloween Part 1 and Part 2, by the way. Don't sleep on that. It's
So
on,
random.
HBO Max. I was like, I like the
HBO
comic
Max,
book.
got it.
They just launched the Part 1, Part 2 of the
That was
movies,
really
and I was like,
bad.
I don't know if I need to watch this. I liked it. You didn't like it?
I haven't seen it. I just heard it was really bad.
Oh
But
no,
maybe
I
I'm
got
mixing
into
with
it. I didn't
something
like the first hour of the first one, but then I kept watching it. By Part 2, I was like, I forgot how much I liked the Long Halloween. I digress. As we go here, we wrap it all up, and guess what? Cersei's got a little extra of that fun power left, so she turns Sprite into a human being, and Sprite's like, "Cool, this is all I've ever wanted, is to grow up and eventually die." Hey, guess what? When you hit 40 and you blow out your knee, Sprite, you're gonna fucking
what you
regret
wish
this
for.
decision.
Yeah.
Bring
When suddenly
me
you
back.
can't keep up with the youngins on the basketball court and you're getting constantly crossovered and broken ankles, like
Yeah.
you can thank yourself for that, Sprite, okay? We should have fucking killed you for trying to ruin all of this.
Oh man. But either way, they don't. They all take off. Let's see. Then we get Athena. We get a fun little scene in North Dakota where the kid's like, "Hey, who are you?" And she's like, or he's like, "You're Athena, right?" She goes, "No, Athena." Just dropped the A, which I'm not quite sure what the reference was there. And then he's like, "What's your superpower?" And she fucking skewers an orange. And then Fastos is like, "All right, your babysitting your right is revoked forever."
I love
She's
his
like,
freak
"Whatever."
out mode. Like, oh my god, like getting up out of the seat is great.
We also said, by the way, that she's done with the Mad Weary. I think she snapped out of it now that they beat the Titan. And they part ways, and Cersei, Fastos, Kingo, and Sprite remain on Earth as Dane professes his love for Cersei over in London. And we're like, oh, this is nice. I think Athena, Druig, and Makari leave on the Domo to find other Eternals to free them or fight them, which I presume will be the part of at least the next movie. Meanwhile, Cersei and Jon Snow, Jon's like, I'm gonna, you know what? A lot of people don't wear red scarves. I'm gonna wear a red scarf because I look good in it. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe 5'8" is the perfect height, Andy.
Maybe
Maybe it is the
maybe
perfect height.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not because the clouds part and who should show up, but Arisem is here and he's pissed. He was like, guys, I told you you
fuck,
could have a
bro?
couple friends over, but you fucked up the entire house, and now you got to pay. He takes all the remaining Eternals from the planet and zaps them off to we don't know where, but I like the visual of him going into a singularity and popping off. And then Jon Snow's like, I don't know what to do, but I gotta go get my magic sword, but we won't see that until the mid-credit sequence. And I think that's the end of the movie. Oh,
Did you
wait,
hear?
What?
it's not. Star Fox shows up.
I was gonna say, did you hear Tam's prediction last night?
Mm-mm.
We went to the movie. For people who don't know who Tamar Hussein, he's on a lot of our video game content, and he was with us at the movie last night. And he said, "I think what's going to happen is that, essentially, a celestial was due, and a celestial was not made, and that Galactus is going to send the Silver Surfer to go to Earth to be like, where the fuck's this celestial at, y'all? Like, because he's like the what's it called? Like the kind of like
Herald.
The Harbinger.
the Herald, yeah, the
Or
Herald,
the Herald.
yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, the Herald.
So that's how they introduce. That's how they'll introduce Galactus and the Silver Surfer to the MCU.
Well, the
That'd be
the
so
fact that
cool.
they have that imagery, like the iconic sort of like celestial Galactus-esque imagery of that big thing floating out by the Earth,
Incredible.
gets me so
Well,
fucking
actually,
excited
you know,
for that
now
arc.
now that we
I
are
thought you were just saying it
thinking,
gets me so hard.
No, Andy, I was
Wow.
going to, but I stopped myself. But thank you for reminding me who we are.
now that we're like thinking about like the different ideas and stuff and how they can integrate stuff, what if like, so
What if?
the energy that we were creating, right? They were saying that you need an intelligent society or
Basically,
civilization,
intelligent life. Yeah.
intelligent life. So there must be some sort of life force or something that we all with a certain number we hit that,
Midichlorians, yeah.
right? It's something like that.
7.
But like, what if like this is the fate of all planets, right? And if they go higher than that threshold because they somehow stop the
Set
celestial,
off an alarm.
well, it
Galactus
doesn't
has
set
to
off an
come eat
alarm,
them.
but Galactus senses them.
Yeah.
If
that's
it goes
awesome.
higher, Galactus can sense them, and he'll come over. That
That's
would be
cool.
fucking.
That's
that
cool.
would be
So
pretty
basically-
cool. Pretty cool.
Out of the frying pan into the oven in that regard.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That would be
Also,
great.
one more thing. I did really like that the Asriel like grabbed them all and was like, "You've chosen to do this."
Arishem.
So Arishan, you're right, Asriel, someone else. Arishan, and then says like, "We'll come back to judge them, to see if like they're
that was
worthy of sticking
interesting.
around." Yeah,
Because for people that might not be familiar, like in the Marvel universe and specifically in the Infinity War storyline, I think this is the most famous use of these characters. We kind of get a bunch of these like incredibly universal level cosmic entities where there's like
they're even bigger than the Celestials.
living tribunal, which is
Yeah.
kind of like judge. There's judgment going on. Like it's the
Cosmic
court of
forces.
the universe. These
Yeah.
cosmic focus. There's death. They're like in the Infinity Gauntlet story. Thanos is not trying to eliminate half of life
No,
for
he's trying
like
to
these
impress
good
Death,
reasons.
right?
He's
Yeah.
trying to impress Lady Death, who's like this whole thing. So it's like it was interesting that they're kind of like MCUifying this Celestial to kind of potentially be that Judgment character.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I thought that line was definitely a choice that they made for the future of this.
I liked it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I liked it too. I wouldn't be surprised if we never get an Eternals 2. Like I think that this movie was definitely to set up characters, set them on their ways to then be in a bunch of other things.
Other movies, yeah,
I
that's cool.
think like I wouldn't
gonna
be
go to
shocked if
bathroom.
we got an Eternals 2, but it was about the crew that like left, and then some other movie takes care of what's happening with Azrael and like the the Eternals that he stole. I don't know the name, Tim. I don't know the
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
It's a word
Yeah,
for
yeah.
situation.
Arturo
Okay.
and Chat says it's gonna be weird having a whole damn head of a celestial in the ocean now. Hey, they're figuring out the polar ice cap issue. Maybe we can.
It's not ice.
there's-
It's marble. This is really bad.
It's not ice.
Displaced. It's not ice. They say that it's stone.
It's like marble
Fuck.
stone.
Yeah. This is really bad. When it
That
was ice, I was
causes
like,
really
oh, it's pretty
bad.
good.
This should cause flooding across the
That's
world. then.
exactly right. The displacement of water is going to be really bad, Andy.
Holy shit! Like the tides are rising at least 7 feet around the nation, around the world. That's scary.
That's one of the most interesting things that I'm like very excited to someday see how MCU handles is like this thing popping up and what are the actual effects on the planet itself.
It's a cool
So,
movie.
it's a cool fucking movie. So here
It's
we
so
are.
funny. She could have made it anything. She made it stone. She could have made it air. She could have made it nothing.
She kept going back to like, I can make a rock this, I can make a rock that, I can
But
make a
she
rock
was making
this.
rock other things. That was a hilarious moment, by the way. The comedy I enjoyed very much all throughout.
So here we are. We already talked about the post-credit scenes, and so unless you guys have something else to say, I say we kick right into a thing I like to call, Andy, Haiku in review. Almost.
I kind of forgot that I start right with it.
Yeah.
As I hit play, I was like, all right, I'm about to pop in when the cue hits. No, it's right at the beginning. 7 syllables in the middle. You'll need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review.
Go to patreon.com/kindafunny to write your review in haiku form, just like Z Pole did. Dane gets his reward. Are you ready, Mr. Whitman? That was Blade's voice. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it fucking was.
For a
That's
while
pretty good,
there,
too. That's
Dane gets a
pretty good.
reward. Are you ready, Mr. Whitman? I was like, is this a haiku in review from Last Night in Soho? Like, I don't know who those characters are.
Tim, did a quick question about the post credit scene. Was that Excalibur or was that the other sword?
That was the ebony blade. They mentioned earlier, they're like, oh, is that Excalibur?
I
Yeah.
thought they had found and gave it to his family. Interesting.
No. That is the ebony blade.
Yeah, the blade that she was swinging, that Athena was swinging in that one sequence. It
That
made
was
this
Excalibur.
scene kind of make sense, essentially.
Wait. All right.
Joe Mertens writes in and says, it's very pretty and the cast is impressive, but mid-tier Marvel. And Brandon Monforte says, Kumail steals the show. Harry Styles is fucking Eros? Are you kidding me? Yeah, very interested. I wonder when we're going to see him next, because I can't think of a place that fits, but that's kind of the fun of this MCU where we're at right now, where who the fuck knows?
I'm
Like,
shocked that
then-
didn't get spoiled anywhere on TikTok, shockingly.
About
I heard it was all over the
Anything.
place that first
About
day
anything.
when it leaked. Joey told me she had gotten spoiled about something, and I stayed away from TikTok
Yeah.
for a day.
I was spoiled on the
30
Harry
minutes.
Styles thing, not because of TikTok, but just in general. But
Yeah.
anyway, those are your haiku in review. Now it's time for Ragu Bagu.
Bagu. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rad Guys Talk Bad Guys for the MCU, or as people like to call it, the longest lists on the planet with many, 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 many tiers. Tim, I don't think I have this list.
I have the list, Nick
Perfect.
Scarpino. It's okay. We have, of course, the S tier, A tier, B tier, C, D, and F tier. The last one that we ranked was Ultron from What If at the top of the B tier, above Bacon Guy from First Class. No, sorry. Nope. Baconator from First Class. Bacon Guy.
Kevin Bacon.
yeah,
is
totally
A tier.
Much
different
higher
guys.
on the list. It's,
Much higher,
in the
yeah,
S
yeah.
tier. In the S
Makes
tier.
sense.
Tim,
Tim,
can you
Tim,
can
may
you read
I-
to me C and D tier, please?
I will read you C and D, Andy Cortez. C starts with S. Cree, Jude Ladd.
Jude Law, yeah. That's
Jude
right.
Law
And the
and
Kree.
Captain Marvel. Yes. Then we have Francis Angel from Deadpool. We have Red Skull. We have Rockwell / Mickey. We have the Dink / Sentinels. We have Magneto / Brotherhood and Mask / Dormammu in the C tier. And then kicking off the D tier, we have the Vision from Solo. Then the Mandarin / Aldrich from Iron Man 3. Obadiah from Iron Man 1. Franco Malloy / Taskmaster from Black Widow, Loki from Thor 1, and the Flag Smasher / John Walker from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
God damn.
What's
this
the
is
bottom of the A list?
confusing?
Bottom of A list.
Yeah, just give me the last three. Just give me the last three.
Just give him the last three, Tim. Give him the last three.
Ella Grandmaster, Ego, and Mysterious from Far From Home.
Interesting.
Is this doc,
and
by the
then-
way, in the Kind of Funny Master Drive? I would love to just bring it up on my own.
It is not.
I don't have to ask you every
No, it's
time.
private.
It
He
is
wants us to
not.
ask. He said that. Can we discuss who the villain is? It's Ashriel and
Yep,
Icarus, right?
Azrael. It's definitely Azrael.
I don't know it.
Arishem.
You just read a list where you had named someone and you said Bacon Guy. Oh, I'm sorry, not Bacon Guy. It's Baconator.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
That's
sorry.
an important
I'm
distinction,
sorry.
Kevin.
It is an important distinction. But
You're
guess
right,
which
Kevin.
one are
You're
right?
right.
Guess which one of those two were the right name?
Neither?
of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Neither of them.
Thank you.
Arishem.
They weren't right named by choice.
Which one? So Azazel is a bad guy, right? Is that what we're saying?
Azazel and Icarus, yeah. Right? Those are the two baddies?
Arishem and Icarus are the bad people. Yeah, I would say
Yes.
Icarus more than Arishem, but yes. I would say.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
And
I don't know.
Quirrell, the
I would say,
deviants.
yeah, the deviants. I wouldn't really put Arishem on the as the bad guy. I think he's just an entity of the universe.
That destroys planets. So
yeah.
that his race can continue.
Yeah, I don't know. I think in terms of how this movie presents it, I think it's the deviants and
Icarus.
Ismahawk, as Nick called him.
Yeah,
Icarus.
perfect. Where do we want to put him? Andy, you have the list in front of you. You tell me where to put him, and I'll agree with you or disagree with you.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so, oh gosh, this is so tough because it's one of those cool in concept, kind of wasted opportunity.
Mhm.
I want to put this dude. So that's S, that's A, that's B. I would put it underneath Dormammu and
wait,
Mads
let's-
Mikkelsen.
Let's start at the tier.
I would go S, A, B. I would go C tier.
C tier? Man.
Yeah, I would go C tier.
See, I think high B tier.
So you're thinking over, like, you're thinking maybe, oh, you know what,
There's an
Kevin? Yeah,
echo.
I'm
There's an
looking at,
echo. There's
Yeah,
an
I'm
echo.
hearing an echo. Maybe it's Tim's. Do you think it's Tim's headphones going
Yes,
into
it
the
is. It
earbud?
is. You put him too close, the idiot.
let's see here. Damn, Kevin, I don't necessarily disagree with that.
I know.
This
It's
one's
okay.
a tough one. I'd say maybe go over Ultron from Age of Ultron.
You need to give me the B list now. I'm sorry,
B
I don't have
tier.
it. Did he
B-
share this with everyone, or is this something special?
he
for you now?
shared it with me. Tim, I'm thinking B tier underneath Hydra from Winter Soldier and over Ultron from Age of Ultron.
I don't disagree
I'm
with
thinking
that.
more C tier. I feel more under Ultron, but above the Captain Marvel bad guys. It's just I think that the fact that they fucked up
I
the
feel
deviant
like-
storyline so bad is like such a loss for this
bummer.
movie's potential. That like that to me is its biggest offense. So I don't want to reward them in any way for being bad.
True.
I feel like excluding Azrael or whatever the hell his name is fucked up. Like that's like
Ashley.
excluding Dormammu, where it's like
I don't
Dormammu's
think it
just
changes my thoughts anyway.
All
Having
right,
him in
well,
or out doesn't matter.
I think that they're compelling villains. I don't think that the deviants are, and it is unfortunate that they screwed it up. But
Top of C tier. I'm going top of C tier then. Tim.
nah, see, I think middle to bottom of B tier. Middle to bottom of B tier. Who's the last one on the B tier?
Ultron.
He's better
From
than
Age of
Ultron.
Ultron.
Come on, Icarus is better than Ultron. Like it was a cool character. I wish the ending was a little bit stronger, but Ultron sucks.
We have no decision.
Nick.
Well, yeah, Nick's opinion.
I would say top of C tier.
Top of
Final
C
answer.
tier over
He
the
just
Kree and
guessed.
Jude Law from Captain Marvel.
Yes, I think that's more.
Joey's
more.
right on it. God, she's right on it.
That's what I would say.
Good
There
job,
we go.
Tim. Thank you.
We got who do we want? Nick, tell me. Who are we writing down?
We are going to write down Icarus
Azrael.
and Azazel.
Awesome.
No, Arisem,
So-
I would say.
Ashley Burns.
It is Ashrael, right? Something like that.
Arishem.
Arishem.
Arishem, yeah.
You're talking about the celestial.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know that, yeah. I had it
Yeah.
off.
All right, let's rank the movie.
Let's fucking rank this thing. Kev, please bring it up. Currently, the list is a long list. Number 1, Endgame. Number 2, Infinity War. Number 3, Homecoming. Number 4, Civil War. Number 5, Ragnarok. Number 6, Winter Soldier. Number 7, Guardians 2. Number 8, Loki. Number 9, WandaVision. Number 10, Avengers. Number 11, Guardians 1. Number 12, Shang-Chi. Number 13, Iron Man. Number 14, Far From Home. Number 15, Black Panther. Number 16, Doctor Strange. Number 17, Falcon and Bucky. Number 18, Captain Marvel. 19, Ant-Man and Wasp. 20, Ant-Man. 21, Black Widow. Widow, 22, Iron Man 2, 23, Age of Ultron, 24, First Avenger, 25, Iron Man 3, 26, What If, 27, Hulk, 28, Thor, 29, Dark World. I would like to start this one off.
Oh!
Really like this movie a lot, as I think evidenced by the last 2 hours of us talking about it. I think we're all kind of in a similar place of, a lot of potential. Didn't live up to it, but it's still damn good. Having said all that, though, there's a lot of good movies and shows we're talking about here. I put this at number 26. Underneath Iron Man 3 and above What If.
That's wild. No. That's way too low.
I don't hate that.
If I may.
Kevin
I
has
thought
the
this was
floor.
a great movie. It was an epic. We haven't seen a movie like this in a long time. I enjoyed it, I think, more than Shang-Chi and just a little bit less than Guardians of the Galaxy. I would put it at number 12.
Wow, that is
Jesus.
very high.
I
mean,
Hey,
we're
Team
gonna be
26,
talking about,
I have the same Jesus, all right? Like, both of
Yeah.
y'all, I'm going, Jesus,
that's the thing.
guys.
I really think that over the next decade, this movie is going to mean more and more. And it's like it's setting up a lot of things. And like it's got us all thinking, it's got our minds percolating like a cup of coffee.
I will go next. I will be. Let me be the mediator between you all, because this is exactly what I was thinking before you all even said your numbers. I would put this beneath Doctor Strange, above Falcon and Winter Soldier, at number 17.
See, unfortunately, I'm more with him on this one. Where I just thought this movie was fine. I didn't think it was. I don't really. Yeah, it didn't really do too much for me, and I can't put it above Iron Man 3 because having just rewatched that movie,
You can't put it above Iron Man 3.
can't do it. It's not as fun. But at the end of the day, the movie wasn't that much fun, and I understand what they were going for, but
it was like a crazy 7,000 year long.
It's a different tone for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I see
I
what Nick is
just-
saying.
Iron Man
Nail
3
its
is not-
tone.
Didn't
Iron
get
Man
it.
3
I
didn't
think-
either. But that's why we're
Iron
talking
Man
about
3
the
is
bottom
not
third of a 30
good.
movie list.
I feel like Iron Man 3 is not good. I would describe this movie as good. This would have a solid 7.5 in my book, maybe even an 8. Probably an 8.
I'd probably put it where Tim put it. Probably put it at 26. I'd put it lower on the list.
We should really do another individual rankings. Think
No.
about that, Tim. Stew on that.
Every time you say something like that, Andy, it makes my life infinitely more complicated
Just
because I get a
stew on
bunch
it.
of tweets and Reddit threads, and I'm like, I try so hard to schedule things, guys.
Just
I try
stew
so
on it.
fucking hard.
Let's also re-review the Toy Story movies. How about that?
Let's
Jim?
just
You watch it?
re-review all of MCU. Let's do it one more time. Let's give it another go. Just us
I mean,
four.
there's a lot of extreme opinions here. We'll see what Greg thinks. There's no definitive answer here because everybody's
Yeah.
kind of all over the place.
This is
All right.
unfortunate. And
Yeah,
this puts us in a very bad place.
let me
where
make
Nick
a prediction.
Votes 26, I vote 26, Kev votes 12, and he votes 17, which means we cannot rank it. And I hope that Greg is able to watch this movie soon because this might put us in this review, in MCU review, in a standstill for a couple months.
Prediction
Andy
pizza
Cortez.
bet.
No, just
prediction,
the rankings. It'll just put the
Prediction
rankings
pizza
in
bet.
the
Greg is going to put this at number 15 over Black Panther and underneath Far From Home. That's my prediction pizza bet.
I could see that. I could be won over to move down there. I have to.
It
listen
has
to
all the
arguments,
makings for a movie that Greg would hate. Really,
Kevin.
really, really long and like serious tone, and it's got some jokes here and there. But it's more of a, it's less of a fun jaunt. You know what I mean? But I still think it's gonna be one of those weird ones. I
But
go,
he's a
wow,
dad
Greg
now.
really
You know what I
liked
mean?
it.
He's
That's wild."
serious. Yeah, he's more serious now.
I know he hated the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Dude hated that game. Crazy.
Really?
Hated it, Kevin.
You
It was the worst game he's
serious?
ever played in his life.
No, he didn't say that.
He was kind of like, he didn't really love it.
That's so sad.
It's a good game.
Andy is here to fucking start some fires
Jesus, I
today. You
know,
want to talk
like-
about Shin Megami Tensei, Andy, or not? Okay, I love you all.
Fuck yeah, I
Let
wanna
us
fight
know
all
in
those
the comments
nerds.
below what you have to say about the Eternals. I love that there's a lot of varying opinions on this. I think that is a sign that the MCU is doing some cool shit. So let us know in the comments below what you think. We will return in review very shortly. Like I said, Spider-Man 3 rewatch, Ghostbusters 2016 coming your way next week. And then we're going to come back to the MCU and review multiple times in the next couple months. We got Hawkeye, we got Spider-Man No Way Home. Very exciting stuff. But until then, I love you all. Goodbye.